Good evening, everyone. It's really good to see people here face to face. Welcome. Welcome to the regular board meeting of the San Benito CISD Board of Trustees. Today is Thursday, July 20th, 2021, and I call this meeting to order at exactly 5:33. Tuesday, what did I say? Thursday, Tuesday. Sorry about that. Thank you. I'm 2 days ahead on my vacation. Thank you for that. Tuesday, July 20th, 2021. Roll call. Ramiro Moreno, present. Ms. Janie Lopez.
Present.
Mr. Oscar Medrano.
Present.
Mr. Rudy Corona.
Present.
Dr. Ariel Cruz.
Present.
Mr. Orlando Lopez.
Present.
Mr. Mario Silva.
Present.
Dr. Nate Carmen.
Present.
Mr. Stephen Weller. Reminder to make sure you turn on your mic.
Thank you. It's on. Present.
Thank you. All right, we move on to agenda item 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance to the United States and Texas flags.
Leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance is Raylene Trinity Lopez. She is from La Encantada Elementary. Raylene Trinity Lopez is 7 years old and will be in second grade for the 2021-2022 school year. Her favorite subjects are science and reading. Raylene was a top AR reader in first grade and was in an all-A honor roll and perfect attendance. Her hobbies include basketball, soccer, and in her free time, she enjoys reading and making slime. When she grows up, Raylene would like to be a veterinarian. Raylene is the daughter of Amy and Emmerich and Raul and Corina. She has two siblings, Leila Nicole Lopez, an 8th grade student at Miller Jordan Middle School, and Eileen J.D. Leal, a 7th grade student at Grant Middle School in Corpus Christi, Texas. Raylene would like to thank her parents for all the love and support. For her mom, I love you, and you are the best mom ever.
Awesome.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Will her parents please stand up to be recognized at this time?
We move on to 1.3, the invocation. Our next student.
Leading us in the invocation is from La Encantada Elementary, Caroline Isabel Galvan. Caroline Isabel Galvan was born in June 12, 2013, and is 8 years old. She is the only child of Jessica Diaz. She will be in the 3rd grade this coming school year and is attending La Encantada Elementary. Caroline enjoys art, practicing music, and attending Girl Scouts. Caroline is looking forward to the new school year and plans to be able to participate in student council and the ACE after-school rock band. Some of Caroline's favorites include the color blue, her poodle named Wednesday, playing soccer, learning about science, and watching Harry Potter. Caroline would like to thank her mom for all the love and support.
Loving and gracious God, we thank you today for all of your blessings, for the successful outcomes of our school board meetings, and for all of our school board members. We ask that you bless them abundantly, and you continue to seek your wisdom, guidance, courage, and strength. Be with us in our deliberations and help us to be wise in the decisions we make for the good, all those who have placed their trust and confidence in our leadership. Dear Lord, grant us the humility to always seek your will in all that we do and say amen.
Amen. Will parents please wave and be recognized at this time?
Students, at this time, we thank you we thank you and your parents for being here tonight, and we would like to recognize you with a token of our appreciation. So both girls, will you please make your way up to the front so that you may be recognized? And thank you once again for being here with us tonight. I think we should go down there.
Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Can we go down there? That way they're little. Congratulations. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Okay? Thank you. We're going to all say hello to you. And then we've got, make sure you got your name right. Carolyn, Isabel Gavon, thank you for being here with us tonight. Here's a token of our appreciation. Thank you. Parents, once again, thank you so much for having your children here. We move on to the next agenda item, 1.4, public comment. Before we begin, I will remind our audience members of the board's procedures for handling public comment. The public comment portion of our meeting is available to members of the public who wish to address any topic. Anyone who would like to speak during public comment must sign in prior to the start of the meeting and list the topics they want to discuss. Each public comment speaker will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes to address the board for each topic or topics. If more than 10 speakers are signed up to speak on the same topic, all additional speakers on that item shall be limited to 2 minutes. However, any public testimony speaker who requires a translator will receive up to 6 minutes to address the board. We ask that you please keep your comments or criticisms civil and courteous. Please avoid using profanity and refrain from making personal attacks on others during your opportunity to speak. Lastly, we ask that you do not discuss students who are not your own children. If a speaker is seeking board resolution of a specific complaint, that concern should be addressed through the district's grievance process. District policy DGBA has been established for addressing employee complaints. Policy FNG is the avenue for filing parent complaints, and policy GF addresses community member complaints. Grievance forms can be obtained at any campus administration office or at the district's central administration offices. Thank you. Our first speaker today is Ms. Mary Maney. Ms. Maney, just a reminder, you will have 3 minutes per topic. Thank you for being here tonight.
My name is Mary Maney, and I'm a teacher at San Benito High School. I would like to start by expressing my gratitude that the board meetings have become open to the public once more, as this gives a hopeful note for the start of the school year, going back to a more pre-pandemic start. I also feel that the Facebook Live broadcast and recordings are still helpful to those who are dealing with conflicts of time and not yet comfortable with being in closed groups. Please keep both these methods open for the future. I would like to start with an agenda clarification about public comment. According to the agenda, each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to speak, and according to BED Local, each speaker is allowed 3 minutes per agenda item. This really does need to be a clarification of this so the speakers know just how long they make their opinions. Okay, first one, 3.8, strategic plan. Ms. Jeannie Lopez said something at the last special board meeting that struck a note with me. She said that we needed to focus on retention and recruitment of our resources. Yes, we do lose students at the lower levels and we gain more at the higher levels. However, the local charter schools are starting to up their game to target more recruitment at the higher levels. They offer incentives that entice parents to send their kids, now including partnerships with professional sports teams and major industry, in an effort to get more of our promising athletic students and higher achieving students. We need to go back to our campaign that had just started at the beginning of COVID, so they were showing promise, and we as a district need to promote what we are doing in the school system that is a positive community influence. However, we need to present a more cohesive front on the social media for our board also. I am extremely hopeful that when I saw the strategic plan presentation being on the agenda with the board training on Thursday, I am sad to say that San Benito is not the only school board who is experiencing difficulties across this nation, but I am pleased to say we are not the worst behaved shows on board meetings on the internet. We are verbal but not physical in our disagreements. So I don't know if everybody truly appreciates just that difference. I would like to keep the positive opinion that when the board comes out of training on Thursday, that San Benito CISD will start showing on social media and our community that San Benito is capable of rising above to become a positive contribution to a campaign of recruiting and retention of staff, students, and stakeholders, so that San Benito continues to grow and show just how great our district is. My next comment is kind of a combination between 4.2, which is budget amendments, and 6.7, that the items over $25,000. I am always encouraged when budget amendments are on the agenda, as this shows that San Benito has a very proactive mindset. I would like to bring up a budget consideration that was brought to my attention by students who I'd gone on an FFA state convention with this past month. They were questioning about a one-time purchase request that had been put in for a new FFA truck. I know that doesn't seem like much, but I have been having conversations with these students and teachers about just what FFA does in our CTE program. I had no idea that they had to travel to Oklahoma and other states on a regular basis to get the animals that were handled by our students. One of the trucks that it was being questioned about being replaced is a 2006 model with well over 200,000 miles on it. Students are sometimes traveling in these CTE vehicles, and their animals are transported to those events in these vehicles. You as a board may want to keep these things in mind when some of the requests for items that are made for over $25,000. Again, I am not an FFA sponsor. I've listened to the students, and it's one of these, if they're concerned enough about it to say something, I felt I needed to bring it up. As always, I appreciate the time to express my opinion and to show that your efforts at transparency and student commitment are appreciated. Thank you very much.
Ms. Maney, thank you. The next member of our public audience for public comment is Ms. Rosalinda G. Garcia.
Good evening, members of the board, superintendent. It's a privilege to be among you all, a position that I take very seriously, and I admire you all being here. I had a lot of topics to cover, but I picked just a few, and do I have to stick to what I wrote? I forgot what I wrote.
Yeah.
It's all important anyway. One of the things, topic 3.2, comparison of revenue and expenditures. I noticed that there's no internal auditor with the district. We used to have an internal auditor, but a few years ago, those services were terminated. So I want the public to know that an internal auditor reports directly to the school board. An internal auditor begins with a clean slate, and they do governance on day-to-day management. They don't report to the school auditor, doesn't report to, the internal auditor doesn't report to the superintendent. I'd like to see an internal auditor. And then another topic that I saw there was the 3.8, a presentation by Mo Casey and Associates. They're gonna do I think, a great presentation for you all. It's very useful information that I read on good governance. And one of the things is that good governance, a board monitors the district finances to ensure the superintendent is properly maintaining the district's financial procedures and records. And then also it goes on to say about how good governance has to be with code of ethics and how board members need to continuously be updated on code of ethics. That's very important. And I don't want to see get the feel that a certain board member is against another board member because they went to court and had to go to court, and you know the rest of the story. But code of ethics is very important. So I'm looking forward to this presentation by Moak and Associates. And you'll get a self-assessment, very good information. You discuss mistakes you make, you admit to mistakes, that sort of thing, and so on. My other important agenda item is the 6.10, discussion, possible negotiation on legal services. I know there was some negotiations or questions regarding their fees. I look forward to seeing where we're off with that. So we have a new legal on board. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
And then 6.11, discussion about forensic auditing. That's going to be a recommendation or discussion by the board. I myself, for a few years now, I want the community to know, because I post on Facebook, and the superintendent knows that I post on Facebook because I have a sincere interest on the operations of the school board, especially the finances. And when through the years I see double entries, I see the ledger reports being brought down without an explanation, and now 2 years later they're back up. Why? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Anyway, maybe the reason they're gonna discuss a forensic operation is from what I pick up, and maybe some board members are looking at or discovering other information. Like I said, double entries. One time I remembered a board member's meeting tab for their meals. It can't be right, and sure enough, it wasn't right. That was entered. I made the superintendent aware about student names being inputted, and they shouldn't be, and now they're not, but I did make him aware. I'm here to be a team player, not just to criticize, but to keep the district out of litigation. One time I gave a donation for a scholarship, and my check was posted on the internet with my license number, but it's okay. I let the superintendent know, and it was brought down. And like I said, I've made I've seen a lot of incorrect information as far as business expenditures. Donations, entries, double entries, like you all question the American Express, some are like 200,000, and where do those points, I know they said it goes back to the local maintenance, but I can understand why you're looking at a forensic audit. Especially like there was a time where 90,000 was brought up to give to employees, $100 bills for money being spent on school supplies. It was brought up, board members were there to help out, giving out $100 bills. that definitely is not a good practice, and it's on the ethics by TEA. And there's documentation here, not all the money was given out, you need to turn in your ledgers, all that paperwork, all of that trail has to be looked at. That was a lot of money that was brought out. And I had more topics to cover, but I know you're gonna have a very lengthy meeting, an interesting meeting, and I thank you.
Ms. Garcia, we appreciate your time. Thank you. Next person up for public comment is Armando Molina. Welcome.
Good evening, board members and everybody else here. My name is Armando Molina, and I've lived in the RGV all my life. And my wife and I have been blessed with 2 beautiful daughters, and I'm fortunate enough to work in an organization that makes a positive impact in the community. I'm the public health advocate at Valley AIDS Council. I provide HIV, STI education to health professionals, the public, and including the youth. From professional experience, I know firsthand what happens to LGBTQ youth that does not feel safe or supported in their school environment. I think there was a comment last week about LGBTQ curriculum being provided at San Benito schools. And I'll give you guys some data. In 2018, CDC study reported that Latino young adult men who have sex with men often face stigma, discrimination, and language barriers that hinder their ability to access STD education, prevention, and treatment. As a result, they are vulnerable to high rates of HIV and other health disparities. In 2018, Hispanic Latinos accounted for 27% of all new HIV diagnoses. In 2018, gay and bisexual men accounted for 69% of HIV diagnoses in the United States. In 2018, the southern region of the United States, from Texas to Florida, accounted for 52% of all new HIV diagnoses in the country. And that is because the stigma that Latinos and other people in the South face and the lack of comprehensive sexual health with LGBTQ inclusion has had an impact on driving the HIV epidemic in the South and the Latinx communities. The lack of conversation and knowledge received at schools can often lead the youth, whether they are LGBTQ or not, to receive their information from outside sources that contain false or misleading information. Inclusion of LGBTQ issues into the sex education curriculum would reduce homophobic bullying, improve the health of LGBTQ people, and decrease instances of problems common in LGBTQ students, such as depression and low self-esteem. Nearly 1/3, 29% of LGBTQ youth have attempted suicide at least once in the prior year, compared to 6% of heterosexual youth. For youth to thrive in schools and communities, they need to feel socially, emotionally, and physically safe and supported. A positive school climate has been associated with decreased depression, suicidal ideation, substance use, and unexcused school absences among LGBTQ students. Really what I'm asking is what you have in your mission statement of San Benito CISD to provide a premier education for all students through a positive and safe learning environment. Along with adding LGBTQ issues to the sexual health curriculum, schools can implement evidence-based policies, procedures, and activities designed to promote a healthy environment for all youth, including LGBTQ students. Research has
Mr.
found—
Molina, I'm going to need to stop you. Your 3 minutes are up, but we really appreciate your public comment.
All right.
Thank you so much.
I'm pretty sure the lady before me went longer than I did, but thank you anyways.
Thank you, sir. Our next public comment comes from Mr. Elias Cantu.
Hello, school board trustees and superintendent. My name is Elias Cantu. I am here today to provide public comment regarding the meeting from last week. At the beginning of the meeting, there was a public comment that was read from a concerned parent or resident regarding the curriculum. They asked if the district was including LGBT in the curriculum. As a member and a leader of the LGBT community, I am here to recommend to the school board that the district be inclusive rather than excluding the LGBT students from having this available on the curriculum. I recommend that the school district do everything possible to address the issues that LGBT students face during some of the most difficult years of their life. I recommend that the school board do everything possible to provide a safe space for LGBT students, as this is where they spend most of their time. For LGBT students that are having issues at home or that have been kicked out from their homes because of their gender identity or sexual orientation, the school is considered the safest place to them. I recommend that the school district provide an opportunity for LGBT students to access information about resources available to them in our community. I also recommend that the students be allowed to form a gay-straight alliance so they can meet with other LGBT students that are just like them, so they won't feel like they are alone and thus gain support from each other. And speaking of resources in our community, I have the privilege of working for Valley AIDS Council, which has programs available for LGBT youth in our community. Again, I ask that our board members choose to be inclusive of the LGBT community, including our LGBT students. We are all here today to work for all students, including LGBT students. Let's not exclude them. Thank you.
Mr. Cantu, thank you very much. We move on to the next agenda item. Agenda item 2.1, recognition of 2018 and 2020 Board of Trustees. Dr. Carmen?
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. Tonight, we are proudly recognizing former school board trustees for their commitment to public education and the success of our students, staff, schools, and district. In front, we have crystal awards that will be presented in grateful appreciation to 7 individuals that concluded their terms of service on the San Benito CISD Board of Trustees during the 2020-2021 academic year. Know that without a doubt, we sincerely thank you for the time you dedicated to serving on our school board. When your name is called, we'll ask you to please step forward to receive your award and have your photo taken with the current board. We also ask that you remain up front for a quick group photo.
Take an individual picture. You want to?
Individual and then.
Mr. Olivares, for an individual picture, please. Come on, Dr. Carmen, you. The picture? Group picture? Congratulations, thank you.
In attendance this evening, Mr. Victor Eloy Rosas served from May 2017 to November 2020.
Thank you for your service to our kids. Congratulations.
criticized for whatever we do, but we do it for passion. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Very well said.
Next, we have Mrs. Janie G. Silva, who served from May of 2018 to May of 2021.
It's all for the children. Remember that.
Amen.
And last but certainly not least, we have Mrs. Sonia Weaver, who served from May of 2018 to May of 2021. Thank you.
Thank you for your service to our kids. Sir.
Mr. President, if I may make a comment.
Yes, ma'am. You have the floor.
I did receive a phone call from somebody on that list today, and they said that they were barely invited last minute to come and receive the recognition. So I'd like to request that we present that at another board meeting for those that weren't able to come.
Dr. Carmen, I don't see a problem with that.
I think we can certainly add it to a forthcoming agenda, add it to August agenda and bring him in.
Okay.
Sir.
Thank you for that, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Three point one is cash account report.
I think we have Mrs. Vicki Pettis making her way.
Sorry, I had my mic off. So once again, this is 3.1 cash account report. Ms. Pettis.
Would you like me to continue through up to the quarterly report, the annual report? Is that okay there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great. Wait for a little bit so we can get the PowerPoint up. Okay. Good evening, Board President, Dr. Carmen, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's cash report. The first part is the bank balances. On the cash accounts, we have $5,453,844.77. Under our investment accounts, we have $56,023,928.45 for a total of $61,477,773.22. Next is the revenues and expenditures. Under the revenues, under general operating fund, we have received $109,041,706.85 for a total of 90.32%. This is as of June 30th, 2021. Under federal programs, we have received $21,198,510.46. Under debt service, we have received $7,472,399.02. And under capital projects, we have received a total of $40,842,041.70. That $842,000 is the interest on those funds. For the expenditures, under general operating fund, the year-to-date expenditure is $87,065,278.11 for a total of 71%. These are not the final numbers. We still get invoices that are dated June 30th and before, so we'll still have maybe 3 or 4 weeks after that date before we can finally pay out all of those invoices, and then we'll have a true number of what our expenses are. Under federal programs, we have year-to-date expenditures of $18,103,575.35. Under interest and sinking, $7,803,947.77. And under capital projects, $10,336,645.51. Next up is tax collections report.
Ms. Perez?
Yes, ma'am.
On that sheet that you just went over right now on the expenditures, the numbers that we have are different. Was there a correction made to these?
Actually, no, the only thing that is different, I updated it this afternoon, but it should not have been anything different. It's just that it was a May 2021. I can make sure that those are the right ones, but there should not have been any differences in that one. I'll double check that as soon as I get.
Mine's different too.
Okay.
I saw different numbers on the packet that y'all provided to us.
We were getting updates throughout the course of the day. I don't recall getting one from budget, but that may be the case as to what's going on. You know, as we continue to get in information, and we can talk about that later on, but that's probably why we have different figures. I had the different figures on mine as well, but that's probably why.
I'll get an explanation for you actually just very shortly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Under tax collections, we have collected a total of $15,559,264.40 for a total of 92.86%. And compared to last year at 89.64, we are doing much better this year than we were last year. Next is the check registers. Under general fund accounts payable checks, $2,797,256.42. Student activity is $48,564.60. Construction projects, $238,183.69. No scholarship checks. Payroll was $6,235,129.06. And payroll liabilities was $1,628,315.30 for a total of $10,947,449.14. And if anybody has any questions about the checks, we can go over those. Any questions?
I do have some questions.
Okay.
On American Express, 768758 check number, you have video phones for $23,485. Can you explain what those phones are for?
The video phones is part of the IP phone system, and so the directors, principals, and the administration at the higher end will get those phones that have a small camera. That's the only difference to it. They were due for an upgrade, and so that was actually equivalent to what they had originally paid, so it was an upgrade on the Cisco phones.
On page 10, check number 768836, there's a $106,000 for repair of ice. Is that something that was already approved by the board?
Repair of ice. American Express, when we do these reports, it pulls in various invoices. So it might not be just that one invoice, it could be a multitude of invoices. So when we pay American Express, we pay various vendors through that so that we can get a bigger rebate. So it's not just this invoice. But I can definitely get the invoice information for that one check so that you can see the breakdown.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 12, American Express again, check number 768857. There's a fee for $22,000. It says, open purchase order for emergencies.
I'll
You know
get
what
that
that's for?
information for you as well. That's, again, the invoices are not completely listed out on each of these check items. So they'll get all of those invoices in that one check, and the first line on that invoice list comes up.
Couple more.
No problem.
Again, the American Express for check number 769184. It has open PO for employee uniform rental fee for $214,520. That's on page 12. I'm sorry, page 42.
That is, again, various invoices to that one invoice, to that one check, I'm sorry. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the uniform rentals was 214. The total of the invoices for that check totaled out to 214, and I'll get that information for you as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
And then the one on page 64, that says Power Lift, check number 769430, and that one is for $24,000. It says DC Blocks and TRX Platforms for New Facility Buy Board.
Okay.
Do you know what that one's for?
For the indoor facility, I'm not completely sure on that one. I'm thinking that it's having to do with the weights, the weight system.
Okay, yes, if you can provide some more information on those, we would greatly appreciate it.
Sure, definitely.
Ms. Perez, we're moving on as well with 3.5, correct?
Correct.
Student activity accounts. Thank you, ma'am. Just making
Yes.
sure. Thank you.
So under student and campus activity accounts, you have the list as well as the itemized amounts for each campus. It totals $494,914.89. And then moving on.
I noticed here on this sheet, you have scholarships, that's a $9.99, and then you had another one with scholarships on the first page that you presented to us on 3.1, cash account report.
Mm-hmm.
You have overnight fund scholarships. Do we have different scholarship accounts?
We do. So we have the Superintendent Scholarship, we have various scholarships from outside sources such as the two that are on this one. Those are actually the Superintendent Scholarship is the only one that goes to that scholarship bank account. These belong under student and campus activity funds.
So those scholarships are scholarships that you all organize in the district to raise money?
Yes,
For
the
these
two that are
scholarships?
listed on this report does not belong to a campus. These are scholarships that have been requested by the community or internally, like, is this completely separate? I can tell you that the two that are listed on here are for the Bobby Morrow Scholarship as well as the Hilda Girandon Scholarship.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So moving on, we have the quarterly investment report. So this is a new investment report to y'all. I want to make sure that y'all are completely aware of what's going on here. We have them listed by the bank account. So the first, you'll see First Community, and that is the interest that we get from the bank. The safekeeping, which is at a zero balance, that one we closed out. Ameritrade is where we have 5 million of our general fund and 15 million of our bonds. In those are various CDs. First Public is where we hold all of our general fund that's very liquid and it still gives a good yield of investment interest. So that's where we hold the main amount of our general fund. And Texas Class, we have several little funds, including the debt service, and the biggest part is our health insurance fund. And so those are also liquid, so we can make payments as we need to. So the interest earned is the second to the last column. And for this quarter, the total for all of the interest earned is $96,585.57. And as requested, I listed what we had last year. So last year at this time, we had received $192,709.64. The next page is a list of all of the investments, as well as the maturity dates and the investment type. So you'll see at the end, there's commercial paper and municipal bonds and the different maturity dates. So what ends up happening is as soon as it matures, they'll reinvest it into another CD. So as you saw, that was a very big difference from last year to this year. So I took the liberty of writing out in the last fiscal years, the last 3 fiscal years, which are the 3 different colored blocks, how much was invested at that point, along with how much interest we had earned as of that point. And the percentage is how much we earned overall. So it's not just in CDs, it's overall how we invested it. And that percentage is how much we got in that period, and I've graphed that over on the left. And I went online, looked up the treasury amounts to see what the interest rates were like overall. And you can see that the trend is very similar to what the national rates were at the Federal Reserve level. So I really wanted you to see that it wasn't for lack of investment abilities. This is just an overall nationwide problem. As you know, interest rates are super low right now, almost near zero. So I think it's gonna take a big dip, and the 20 million that we have invested right now, it really is doing a lot better in the CDs that we have them than we could at the pools. So I do think it's best that we continue investing at that level. Does anybody have any questions about the quarterly report?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Ms. Perez, later on, maybe during an upcoming budget committee meeting, maybe we can go through just a little synopsis of how we determine what to invest in. And I mean, I know we went over who's in charge, who does it, you know, and just maybe a little bit more information so that we can be get a little clearer picture of how these investment opportunities are sought out.
Okay.
Thank you.
We sure will. Any other questions? Okay, the last one is the annual investment report. So as required by our board policy, we do have to report that at the end of June 30th, 2021, that these are our total investment amounts. And so looking at the very bottom, we have $384,315.90 compared to last year's $1,105,272.48. They're all the same investments that we usually do. Our cash accounts at the bank with their interest rates, our CDs, safekeeping, like I said, that one was closed out, our text pools, and our First Public pool. Does anybody have any questions about the annual report? Any questions in general?
Anyone have any questions? Okay, Ms. Perez, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 3.8, presentation by Moat Casey and Associates on strategic plan.
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. So I think the board is aware, and most of our administrators in the audience are aware, that our Reimagine 2021 has come to an end. 5-year strategic plan, and while some of it was derailed through the pandemic, starting in March of 2020, we're at a really good time in terms of building a long-range plan for the school district. Our strategic plan, previous one, has come to an end. We're coming out of a pandemic, rebuilding, recharging, rebounding, and we have 6 out of 7 new board members who want to state a direction for the school district. So I think it's an ideal time. So we have engaged the services of Moak, Casey, and Associates. You likely have seen them at some of your board trainings. And this evening, representing Moak Casey, we have Dr. Bucket Gilcrease. I think he's going to give a brief overview, talk about the steps that will take place. This is not a quick fix. This is not a short process, but Dr. Gilcrease, I'll allow you to elaborate, sir.
Thank you all very much for the pleasure of your time. I appreciate that. Yeah, my name is Buck Gilcrease. I'm a recovering superintendent. I spent about 15 years in the chair, and they call it the chair for a reason, right? And one of the things that when I did retire, my wife said, you're not staying home, go find a job. And so I went and luckily got associated with Moak Casey and Associates. Moak Casey, you guys know, been around 30 years and long-term analyst and do multiple things, 313s and all that. But we also have a whole strategic planning process. And you have in your packet several documents, and we're not going to walk through all of those documents, but you have everything from the first conversation about governance with the board all the way through, and at the very end you have a sample scorecard. And just if you would look at that for just 2 seconds, that sample scorecard is what the culmination of the process is, and that is where you start to address the 15 to 20 critical success factors of the district under 4 different areas. The first is obviously student achievement. That's the first and foremost of what you do. The second is your faculty and staff, their engagement and their satisfaction and their capacity building opportunities. The third is then the community, your customers. I didn't look it up, Dr. Carmen, but in Texas I know this, that 70% of the population does not have school-age children in the state of Texas. Only 30% does. And so I bet you guys are going to fall within 3 or 4 percentage points of either side of that. And so you have a group of customers out there that you need to communicate with that don't have a direct line to the school. And then the last is the financial transparency. And by the way, that was one of the best financial reports I've ever seen. I added it up one time. I've been to almost 400 school board meetings in my career. Yeah, he's shaking his head, right? But I'm gonna tell you, that was awesome right there. So very concise and clear, and that was great. So when we get to that scorecard, those 4 areas, we'll talk about what the financial transparency options are that we want to communicate with the board and the community. The last piece is this, that when we get there, this is going to be through a series of meetings. We're going to ask each of you to identify 3 or 4 members of the community to bring and join into a citizens action committee. And you guys will be there with them, and we will revisit your beliefs, revisit your mission and vision, and then end up with this scorecard that will then become, Covey calls it a cadence of communication, a cadence of accountability, where you guys will discuss these things on a regular basis about whether or not you're meeting it. So that was the 2-minute overview. Yeah. Y'all have any questions for me? We're excited to get started. We will need some dates. That's the first step in this, is to get some dates. We like it works well if we can do a board meeting like on a Monday and then the community meeting on Tuesday, because they flow together that way. So we'll get with Dr. Carmen and his staff and get some dates from you guys. And
I understand the process is pretty painful. It's a lot of work.
So I'll tell you this, that, so what you have is a group of, my colleague Juan Cabrera couldn't be here yet. His mother's, he's dealing with his mom. She's very ill, and he had to take care of that. But what you have is a process that's built by a bunch of former superintendents and former board members who got really tired of the other processes, and so we've kind of shortened it up and streamlined it and made it where it really is almost a fun exercise, especially the community engagement part. It's always wonderful to hear what your community has to say and let them have a full conversation. You know, the board meetings have, and by right, have become so formal. But you know, there are opportunities when you can to just really communicate. So it's not painful. It's almost fun.
Yeah, it is. It's just a lot, it entails a lot of work and a lot of planning, so we look forward to that as well. In your tenure with working with Mo Casey and in providing these strategies, do we incorporate the utilization of like a town hall meeting as well, or do we just limit it to 3 or 4 people out of the community?
Well, so the group of 3 or 4 from each of you ends up being about, you know, anywhere from 40 to 60 people.
So it turns into basically a town hall meeting.
Two of those, and then we do. There is an opportunity after that to where we could come back out with that finished plan and then facilitate open town hall meetings for anybody that wants to take part in that. And so it's those are fun too. So.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And Dr. Gilcrease, am I correct in stating that Rio Hondo will be doing a similar plan? Is that right? So Mr. Moreno gets to do this twice and have twice as much fun?
Okay, yes.
Like I said, sir, painful.
That's that's correct. That's correct. We're working with almost 70 districts now around the state that are in this process, and so it's like I said, we tried to make it not painful. So.
Just kidding with you, but no, I look forward to it. We look forward to it. Thank you.
So back to that number of board meetings, I'm not going to stay for the rest of this one if you guys are okay with that. So anyway, look forward to being back.
Thank you, sir.
Agenda item 3.9, update on reopening plan for the 2021-2022 school year. Dr. Carmen?
Sir, and I believe Dr. Cruz and a team of our administrators will present some information on reopening our schools for the next school year.
Good evening, Board President, Dr. Carmen, members of the board and community. We are happy to provide an update to our return to school plan for the 2021-2022 school year. This is our progressive plan, comprehensive working document that reviews the process that we follow for our students and staff members who are COVID positive, who have symptoms, who've been in close contact. It has been modified many times throughout the school year, and it has become a Bible of sorts to us during our day-to-day operation. So it's been a very critical tool for all of us here in the district and in our community. The processes listed in our return to school plan, they are in alignment with the guidance from CDC and TEA. It is located on our district website and constantly being updated. The most recent changes to our return to school plan includes Governor Abbott's Executive Order 36, which bans the requirement of wearing masks, unfortunately. The 2021-2022 school year, for everyone's information, we are very excited to announce that will be 100% face-to-face as per the state's guidance. So we're very excited to have our students back every day with us. And our regular schedules at each campus will be followed by our students. So let me bring up a few of our team members. We have Jeanette Rodriguez, our coordinator of health services, who's been very instrumental. Robert Bettis, our director of maintenance, and Chris Cole, director of energy management. And these are just a few of our team members who have played critical roles. I want to express my gratitude to all of our principals, directors, school board members, community parents, teachers, our students who have just really come together to ensure that instruction continues to make sure that we're all safe and healthy. And, our school nurses have also been very instrumental in making sure that we all remain healthy.
Dr.
So, thank
Cruz,
you.
if I may, at this point, thank you to everybody you just mentioned, but first and foremost, it's a pleasure to see Ms. Rodriguez once again, and thank you for keeping all our teachers, our faculty, our staff, our students safe, and doing everything that you did throughout this COVID pandemic. I mean, everybody had things to do and helped out in their own different ways, but you had a tremendous job, and you survived. So thank you for all you did. We really appreciate you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. She and her team have been amazing. I'm very proud of you, Ms. Rodriguez. So come on up and share a little information with us. That's what I just did. Go, or I'll just read off of this. Okay.
As Dr. Cruz said, my name is Jeanette Rodriguez, and I'm the Health Services Coordinator. And of course, 2020, 2021 was a very challenging year for our department and our school district. So I'm just going to go over some of the measures we took to ensure that our staff and our students stayed as safe as possible throughout the pandemic. These are things that we did throughout the previous school year, but that we will continue to do in the upcoming school year. As Dr. Cruz said, unfortunately, Governor Abbott banned us being able to require masks for students and staff members, so we will still continue to strongly encourage the use of face masks while students are on campus. Of course, continuing to educate staff and students on the importance of hand washing and social distancing. We will also continue doing daily temperature checks and requiring self-screening, which basically is just, determining if you have any symptoms. We also, at each of the campuses, the nurses perform contact tracing to determine if someone has been COVID positive, is there anyone who's been in close contact with them? And so the nurses perform that for students, and our HR department and campus administrators perform that for our staff members. With the help of Mr. Cole, all of our campuses have isolation rooms with specialized air filters, certain PPE in each of the rooms, and so we will continue utilizing those as well. So anyone who's symptomatic, whether it's staff or students, are placed into those isolation rooms until we can do further assessment. Working with the City of San Benito and a local pharmacy, we have been able to offer COVID vaccines to all of our eligible students and our staff members. We have administered to students and staff and also community approximately 4,500 vaccines. We will have 2 more clinics coming up, one this Friday and then one next Friday as well, to hopefully get more of our students vaccinated as they look to coming into the upcoming school year. Our school district has also enrolled in the Binax Now free COVID testing. The enrollment we did is good through August of this school year, but we are waiting to hear from the Texas Department of Emergency Management to see if that will still be offered for the upcoming school year. We should hear within the next couple of days whether that will be allowed, and if so, we will continue to offer testing, free testing for our students and our staff members as well. The last thing we have been doing is our notification. With any COVID positive, we have to notify the Cameron County Public Health Department. We also have to, the principals are responsible for notifying the parents on campus and staff members on campus if we do have a COVID positive case. And then we lastly have to submit a weekly report to the Texas Education Agency, basically summarizing how many positive cases we've had that previous week. So those are some of the things we've been doing in the Health Services Department. And then next, Mr. Pettis is going to go over what has been taking place in regards to the facilities and cleaning products.
Thank you, ma'am.
Well, following that presentation, it's going to be tough for me to continue with it, but nonetheless, I'm going to give you kind of highlights
of what we've been doing across the district as far as our facilities are concerned. I don't know if you realize what we've done at the beginning. We've against the guidance of Dr. Carmen, we've used touchless water fountains across the district. We installed at least 2 minimum throughout for every school. So every school has a touchless water systems. The exception being the high school, obviously, because it's bigger, so it has 6 and 4 strictly for VMA. Availability for hand sanitizers at all campuses, facilities, new desk dividers are being purchased by the district. I believe it's going to be on the agenda tonight. Very important, obviously, to continue to provide that kind of security blanket for our students. The hand sanitizers and hand soaps, although you don't have it there on the side, those kind of things that we use for dispensers, new type of dispensers that we have throughout the district. So we use a lot of those things that the kids can use to wash their hands, to maintain their hands sanitized, wash, and so on and so forth. The gel hand sanitizers, we had several of those have been that were donated to us. Some of those we found that had obviously a shelf life. Although they had a shelf life, we were able to get them out of the system, but most of them we'll be able to utilize. And we still have some of those remaining. However, the rest that we have them on hand, so if the students or the teachers require them, we'll be able to provide them. Alcohol wipes and disinfectant wipes. Scorecard for alcohol wipes we have, and we bought them for our teachers to use at their desks. So we'll provide those as well. So if they want to clean their desks on their own, because we know that they did some transfers last year, we were able to provide those, and we bought quite a few that we continue to maintain and be able to provide to them. The Xenex disinfecting wipes, they're a tub, and those are really for our younger students that have a problem with maybe alcohol. As you know, everybody has very sensitive hands. Our children have very sensitive hands, so we'll be able to provide those as well to make sure that they, we maintain that sanitize going for them. Cleaning supplies for COVID-19 throughout the year, we went out and obviously bought some of the things that we required that are effective and are using our cleanings for our offices, bathrooms, and all our areas for sanitizing purposes, to include showers. So if you have on there, I'll give you one of the examples, the QuadStat, is a 5-minute disinfectant that we use in those showers. So what does that mean? Obviously for the student that showers in our facilities, so it can be able to maintain, sanitize, and disinfect. So again, these are COVID products that we continue to buy and we'll continue to purchase throughout the year. The hand soap sanitizers, I'm sorry, the next slide, is that it? Yeah, I'm sorry. So let me just work on the razor. Last one step, fogger disinfectant is a deep cleaning. Those are the products that we use at the end of the day when everyone leaves and departs. We will continue to do that. I think it's very important for us to continue using the defogging equipment that we have. It provides a service for each one of us and a blanket of support and sanitizing at the end of the day. So when everyone departs, our staff maintains that cleanliness throughout. We also have and something that I don't have on here, but we have a little machine that we bought and purchased for the use of verifying each area that is sanitized. Glad to announce that every time we use it, we don't find any bacteria on any of the surfaces that we use throughout the district. So we will go out and do some checking, especially on our custodial staff and how we'll maintain our area. So I'm glad to announce that our staff is doing phenomenally well. I'm very happy to have them on board, and we're doing extremely, extremely well when it comes to the cleanliness and sanitizing area. Other than that, I'll have Mr. Cole come up, go to his presentation, and if there are any questions, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Perez as well, I don't want to make your job any less important. You were very instrumental as well throughout the course of the year to ensure the safety of everyone, and you're instrumental in making sure that we've got enough supplies year-round. So thank you for your service as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
To continue, ventilation has become a big deal with all buildings, especially buildings that are occupied by so many people. So Ms. Rodriguez mentioned the isolation rooms that we have at each one of the elementaries. Those isolation rooms contain negative air machines, basically machines that don't allow any of air that might be contaminated back into the actual school. That's one layer. Our fresh air intake on our air handlers normally would be open on any given day, summertime, wintertime, about 10 to 20%. CDC guidelines mandated 40%, I believe. We're doing 45 to 50%. It's costing us a little more in energy, but we're cleaning the schools out more, flushing the air out of the schools, bringing in fresh air, non-contaminated with everything. Third layer would be the GPS ionizers, which have been installed in every district air handler, district-wide. So that's this building included. So there is not an air handling system that we have that doesn't have one of these machines in it. These ionizers are basically breaking down any types of various bacteria, smells, smoke, whatever is in the air, just to improve the indoor air quality at each of these campuses and buildings. And then also, or to finish, replacement of all our aging air handling equipment. Basically, we have a lot of schools that are getting up there in age, 20 plus years, that air handling equipment is losing its air curve, basically the flow rates that normally new equipment would provide. So these next 3 years, we're gonna be focusing on replacing a lot of that outdated equipment with some newer air handling equipment. That's it.
You as well, Mr. Cole. Thank you for your service to our district, and thank you for everything you do to make sure that we've got everything updated and ready for our kiddos.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our update of the return to school plan. Again, we're excited to welcome back our students face-to-face this year, which is coming up very quickly. So, thank you, board.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Cruz.
I have a question for Dr. Carmen. Dr. Carmen, and I had already mentioned this to Dr. Carmen, there was concerns from some parents from our community stating that their children were told that they have to wear a mask even after Governor Abbott changed this law for us. If some parents decide that they don't want their children to wear their mask, will those children have any issues in the schools?
No, ma'am, they should not. As soon as we got that mandate from Governor Abbott, we updated our plan. I think within 24 hours, we communicated with our principals and directors. Each of them are well aware that they cannot mandate masks, and they're all sitting in this room as well. But no, ma'am, there's no repercussions for not wearing a mask at this point.
So masks are optional? That's what you...
Masks are encouraged in our schools, but yes, they're optional. If that changes, then we may change, depending on how the pandemic goes, but at this current time, they are not mandated, they are optional.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to consent agenda, business and finance. Agenda item 4.1, request approval to accept gifts or bequests for 2021-2022 school year. Question? Consent. Item 4.2, request approval of budget amendments for 2021-2022 school year. Question? Consent. Item 4.3, request approval of option to extend the contract on RFP 0719 CP copy paper. Question? Consent. Item 4.4, request approval of option to extend the contract on RFP 0719 AIPM awards, incentives, and printed materials. Question? Consent. Item 4.5, request approval of membership for Texas Smart Buy Cooperative. Question? Consent. Item 4.6, request approval of signature cards for First Community Bank. Question? Consent. Item 4.7, request approval of brokers, dealers for SBCISD investment portfolio. Question? Consent. Item 4.8, request approval of resolution approving independent sources for investment training and designation of investment officers. Question? Item 4.9, request approval of resolution approving annual review of the investment policy and investment strategies. Question? Consent. Item 4.10, request approval of Davila Construction Proposal GMP number 2 and GMP number 3 for the vertical construction package of the Performing Arts Facility and the Natatorium by Brighton Group, Rafa Red Architects, and Davila Construction. Question?
Question.
I have a question as well. Moving on to agenda item 5, consent agenda, administration. Item 5.1, request approval of the optional flexible school day program application for Gateway to Graduation Academy for the 2021-2022 school year. Question? Consent. Item 5.2, request approval of the memorandum of understanding between San Benito CISD and Niños Incorporated Head Start, Early Head Start program for the 2021-2022 school year. Question? Consent. Item 5.3, request approval of the memorandum of understanding between San Benito CISD and Region 1 ESC Texas Reading Academies for the 2021-2022 school year. Question? Consent. Item 5.4, request approval of the AmeriCorps Interlocal Cooperation Agreement between San Benito CISD and the University of Texas at Rio Grande Valley for the 2021-2022 school year. Question? Consent. Item 5.5, request approval of the Employee Handbook for the 2021-2022 school year. Question?
Mr. Moreno, I have one note on that. In a prior meeting, in a prior committee meeting, I believe it was discussed that that might be a review by the board rather than an approval. And so we're getting pretty close to semantics there, but just to clarify, I think what we discussed was that review would, it would be a review by the board rather than approval.
And to answer that, Mr. Weller, that was discussed. I believe Dr. Cruz came up to the stand and addressed that issue with us. And basically, it is correct. Usually, the norm is it is presented to the school board for review. Mm-hmm. So in my conversation with Dr. Cruz, I did say, you know, what is the procedure or what is the protocol here? What has that been in the past? Mm-hmm. And she did answer that that it was submitted for approval in this district, so we opted to keep it that way. Is that correct, Dr. Cruz?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Sounds
you for that.
Sounds good. Just wanted to clarify.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You bet. You bet.
So other than that, that will be a consent, correct? All right. So item 5.6, request approval of board minutes. Question? Consent. Okay. So going back at this point, I will need a motion to approve consent agenda items 4.1 through 4.7. Also, agenda item 4.9 and 10. No, 4.9, I'm sorry. And then going on to consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.6. So with the exception to the rule is going to be agenda items 4.8, 4.10, and that's it.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Lopez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Rudy Corona. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries 7-0. Okay, going back to agenda item 4.8, request approval of resolution approving independent sources for investment training and designation of investment officers. Ms. Lopez.
On 4.8, I'm assuming this is Ms. Perez or Dr. Carmen, not sure. But on 4.8, it says it's a resolution. So my question to you all is, what is this resolution for? Why are we making a resolution? Is there anything that changes from what you already had in place?
I'll let Mrs. Pettis answer, but I believe the only changes here are the names. It used to be Ms. Rendon and Victoria Pettis, and now it's Victoria Pettis and Monica Mata. Is that correct, Mrs. Pettis?
Yes, sir. So on the very first part of CDA local, it does say that the superintendent or other person designated by board resolution shall serve as the investment officer of the district, and this resolution satisfies that requirement.
So just again for clarification, Ms. Pettis, basically it just entails, the resolution just entails the name change because of the changes in management or administration.
Correct. So we also do this once a year in July, just as a good practice. So the depending on whether or not there's change in the office or on an annual basis, this is when this resolution will come into you.
Thank you.
Does the board president still get involved in this when you're making changes?
If there's a change in the resolution, it'll come to the board for approval.
Well, what I mean is, because this has to do with investments, that you'll be the one designated for the investments. So does the board president sign off on any of those investments? Is there communication with the school board, or do you just make the decisions on your own?
I make those decisions along with the investment advisor, and the extent of notification to the board is in the quarterly reports.
And once again, ultimately, once those changes are recommended, though, their recommendations being made by your office, Ms. Perez, and it does come up for board approval, correct?
No, sir, it does not.
It does not come up for board approval? It's
No,
just
sir.
done? Okay. Any further questions? Okay, so at this point, if there are no further questions, do I have a motion to approve agenda item 4.8, request approval of resolution approving independent sources for investment training and designation of investment officers?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Oscar Medrano and a second by Mr. Mario Silva. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Next agenda item 4.10, request approval of Davila Construction Proposal GMP number 2 and GMP number 3 for the vertical construction package of the Performing Arts Facility and the natatorium by Brighton Group, Rafa Red Architects, and Davila Construction. Ms. Lopez?
I have a comment on this section on these are the proposals to complete the two final facilities that we have pending, the natatorium and the performing arts facility. And I would like some more guidance from the attorney or other experts that know about construction. I personally don't feel that I'm able to make a decision right now as to whether we approve this or not. And so I'm gonna ask for some more guidance and for us to table this item.
Are you making a motion, Ms. Lopez, to table this item?
I was waiting to see if you had another comment, so I can make a motion.
I do, if I may, and I agree with a comment by Ms. Lopez, and I see that Mr. Palacios is here, so thank you for being here today. I did go over the plans that you proposed, and I know that there's and please correct me, because if you want to come up, because, you know, in case you want to answer, I'd appreciate that. But Mr. Palacios, I understand that time is a major factor at this time, because I understand that due to the pandemic, there's an increase in prices for steel and other materials. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, even a day or two might hinder some of our results, right? But I really feel as board president that I need a little bit more time as well. And the other thing that I want to do, I talked to Dr. Carmen. Actually, let me correct that. I didn't talk to Dr. Carmen. I messaged him, and he replied to me in reference to, I wanted some type of comparison, and help me understand here. Again, in reviewing the packet that you provided us and the recommendations as to what we're going to do away with or minimize without having the aesthetics suffer or the actual building itself. Yeah, I wanted to see a comparison, and what Dr. Carmen basically provided me today, and I was kind of surprised. He provided me, I guess, copies of basically what you had provided me. So then that question, it arose a question in my mind. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm mistaken. So is there not a plan, as an original plan, as to what was originally proposed versus what is now being proposed with the changes?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And first and foremost, these are very complex buildings, so it's easy to feel very uncomfortable. These are very specialized buildings. That is why we were hired. That's why the Rafa Red Group was hired, and we have an experienced group in Davila Construction who is they're very familiar with these types of projects. So if I can explain, and I kind of condensed the packet I gave you What I gave you was a history of where we came from day one, when we were at 50% CDs, which is a construction document phase. First and foremost, let me start. The board elected in January of 2019 to go through the procurement process for construction manager at risk to designate your contractor. Later through there, on the 22nd of January in 2019, the board elected to proceed forward on the procurement through the construction manager at risk to select your contractor. November 7th, you executed a contract with Davila Construction to go ahead and proceed as their construction manager at risk or contractor. And furthermore, at that point, we did have the ROFA group, architects, as well as our group, and all our subs working on the plan for the performing arts and the natatorium. I'm gonna have Alice pass these out real quick. And it's gonna simplify plans and all this, just to kind of clarify the big bird's eye view of your question. So first and foremost, we have full documents, and they're a lot of pages. We're happy to give you and issue those construction documents. Also, there is two manuals, one for the performing arts, one of the natatorium as well. They're all digital files. We'll be happy to supply those to yourselves as well as anybody you'd like to review. But in short, if you go back to your options, it's gonna kind of delineate what we're talking about. First and foremost, the performing arts has not changed. The only thing that has changed was the removal of the administrative offices that are on that plan. That is it. There's nothing else that was removed in the areas of square feet. There were items of value engineering items that we discussed and we went over. In your presentation, there was examples of every one of those. If you look at your assumptions and clarifications, Davila Construction does delineate what those items were that were given credit for and reductions. Again, we're available to go over all of those. We didn't mess with any programming. The only space that we adjusted was on the offices. And then we went through various negotiations and validating more construction bids that we got. There were a couple of specialized items, because these are specialized buildings, that we had a one bid come in. We were awaiting second bids. Now these are, I'll give you one example, and Mike can join me up here if he wants to elaborate as well, or Davila Construction. It was the aluminum canopy that goes over the front of the performing arts as well as the natatorium. We did get a price from Avidec, and we were awaiting one more. Thank God we waited. The process of the last couple of months was validating bids. We were able to get an additional bid from Bowman that dropped the price by a couple $100,000. These are just examples, and in my letter, and you'll see in my letter, we went through some of those examples of how we were able to value engineer $1.7 million from the original proposal on May 28th. The goal has always been the directive we were given. $40 million, 3 projects. We need to get to the finish line to be able to do these buildings. When we gave you options, they're not.
Excuse me, you said May 28th, is that 2019 or what May?
No, this year.
This
And
year.
it's on the letter. On the front letter, the first letter on May 28th was when we went out to bid, and we received the first proposal from Davila Construction on all the bids that were publicly advertised and received. They went in there, validated everything, looked through it, making sure that it corresponded with the design plans that we have as well as the specifications. Once they were done with that process, they issued them to your architect as well as us, and we reviewed all of this, made sure there's checks and balances, both 3 processes we went through on just that. And then 4 different times we went through value engineering, negotiations, and making sure that every bid respected. And at the end of the day, the at-risk is on the CMAR, but this is just the process that we go through just to validate everything that San Benito got the best bang for their buck.
Mr.
The
Palacios,
reason,
is there a reason why these 2 buildings were not started with the indoor facility?
yeah, big reason. They're very complex buildings. At that time, the board elected to wait on advertising for the CMAR. That's why there was a stall. There was a lot of needs assessment done with the district to figure out what you were looking at building. We did do some site visits in Houston, various various facilities to make sure at the end of the day, we did consult with all your staff and your users. All of that took a lot of time to take in because we didn't start this bond program with plans. We didn't start with anything. It just a hope that we would have a 1,000-seat auditorium. So there's a lot of moving pieces to that. That's why I could understand your reluctance or, you know, it's not easy stuff.
Right, you didn't have plans because that, you know, obviously, once you have the land and all of that, then you come up with plans with your engineers. However, you did present some photographs of what it would look like to the community, correct?
Correct.
And videos, there was videos also that were
Correct.
presented to the community. That's why I brought that up last time, because I want to make sure that we get as close as we can to giving the public what they voted for.
So I gave you two examples. What they voted for isn't where we got. Where we got was your best bang for your buck. After going through this entire process, and it took some time, we went out there and we made sure we maximized not just an auditorium for 1,000 seats, but go to beyond that to be able to have 2 additional rooms to provide for a district-wide event center to be able to handle multiple different competitions, district-wide events, all of the very things to maximize your bond dollars.
Right, and going above and beyond is fine. I just don't want to cut on anything that we,
But-
you know,
but I do-
shortchange on anything that we promised.
I do understand your question. So what we presented to the general public in regards to renditions and all of that is what you have. That is what you have minus the square feet that you have for the office space. Minor adjustments on the line items that we delineated in the presentation during the building committee meeting. Other than that, that is what you have. That is what it is, and that's what this package is about.
So when you all first presented some price quotes or a price to the school district, when you all said, okay, this building will cost this much, this building will cost this much, was that an agreement already as to what it was going to cost?
No. No, there, again, theoretical and practical, you only get the practical when you go out to bid. Everyone streamlines budgets. We have budgets throughout the different phases. The benefit of the CMAR process is that we were able to work with the contractor as well as the architect, as well as ourselves, to start pricing what was being designed. Now, through the design process, the building was a little bit bigger. And as we went through this, we got to this final rendering of what this building, of which we presented. And every time there was a change, it obviously moved the dollars here and there. So everyone went through it. Davila presented their general budget, ROFA reviewed and presented their objective budget, and so did we. So this is a process that went through the design phase, through schematic design, design development, and then the construction document phase.
When did you start, I'm sorry, when did you start with the project for the indoor facility?
When did we start? I would say early January 2019.
January 2019?
Well, no,
Okay.
stand corrected. That's when we came on. Shortly after that, we had to advertise for an architect. Shortly after that, we had to advertise for a construction manager. And then we went through this same process for that building. So everything was evolving. Nothing was done prior to when the bond was passed. There were no plans at that point. There was a bond committee assigned by board members in the district who represented the district on what their goals were with the bonds, and those were those 3 buildings.
Okay, so you started in January 2019, so 2 years later, now we have a plan for these 2 new facilities, right?
Not just a plan, but a formalized bid proposal.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Palacios, I just want you to know that my concern, and I thank you for your presentation. The more I hear, the more clearer it's getting.
Yes, sir.
But my concern at this point is, we had requested when we first came onto the board that we would like a monthly report, and I very much would like to continue with that.
We would love
because
to do it.
you're very informative.
Yes, sir.
But also my other concern, and again, like I mentioned at the onset of this presentation, there is I know that time is a major factor, and what I'm asking at this point, I am going to recommend that we table it for possibly the Thursday meeting that's coming in a couple of days. And the reason I'd like to move to table is because, as Ms. Lopez mentioned, that she doesn't consider her, I'm not going to quote her because I don't know exactly what she said, but I know that she doesn't feel that she's guru when it comes to construction, and I'm going to be honest, neither am I. And so one of the things that where I feel that we failed, and it's no fault of your own, and once again, taking time into consideration, I think we failed to provide our general counsel copies of the booklets and again, it may not have been you. Our general counsel is located in Austin the majority of the time. He does come to our board meetings, but he didn't have any of these items to review. And again, we look for, that's why we have him. We look for counsel. We look for him to not, I don't want to use the term micromanage, but I will, to go, with a microscope and see, like you said, that we're getting the best bang for our buck.
Right.
So with that said, that's why I would like to recommend and move that we give it a couple more days.
Mr. Oh, sorry, continue.
Please.
Go ahead.
Can I have the floor?
Of course you may.
Okay. So if just reading this letter, just to see if I have everything clear, we went out to find out how much it would be for construction materials and things like that in May 28th. When that number came back, it was high, it went over our budget, correct?
Yes.
So then we went out for the bid proposal, so it could be more
And I'll
competitive?
clarify, went over the budget in regards to what our target goal was. We've always had a target goal, and this is beyond just the facilities. Now, you're talking about a 40-acre tract that we transition a farmland into developable commercial property. We looked at all off-site utilities, so it was all-inclusive to everything, even all the way to the designing of the plans for architectural service, professional service, all in all. That's the direction we've been given for the last 2 years, and that's the direction, that's been our target goal. So when I say went over budget, not in respect to what the initial budgets were set on the buildings, the overall directive and goal that the district put on us to make sure that we got everything all-inclusive within the $40 million bond program.
So that occurred?
Yes.
So then you, as a project manager, Davila Construction, they went out for bids. Those bids that came back helped us out by lowering that price.
A couple of things have happened. So the benefit of the CMAR route, and I know Mike's gonna chime in here, was the fact that we were able to gauge design, cost, and all. Looked at alternatives, went through everything that we could to validate whether or not the design would meet the budget, the design and the specifications would meet the budget. That's been the goal. Now, in line, we wanted to make sure there was synergy between that, enhanced programming, aesthetics of the facility, and everything that goes with buildings. Quite traditionally, if you go a traditional route, and this is to other districts and other projects we've worked on. By the time we're engaged, there already are plans, there's a budget, and they've already done. You can just talk about all the things. Your index is about 5%, so we're already talking about 10%. Even with our general numbers to everything, we were under, which was phenomenal. So I want to make sure that the process, and the reason I disclosed as we went through the different phases was because we weren't just done through the CMAR process. After we got bids, we went back to Davila, the teams got together, 4 different various sessions, and not 4 sessions, 4 different points, many sessions within those points to make sure that we didn't overlook anything. We went through specifications design, we went over all the bids, which is a mountain of information, and made sure that we can certify that what the proposals are, we can recommend to our client, of which we're hired to do, that we've done everything to maximize your public dollars for these facilities. Mike, you wanted to add something?
I know y'all are drinking water out of fire hose right now. I mean, there's a lot of information you're trying to process, and I appreciate y'all being cautious about a lot of these things. I would be too, frankly. But I will just advise you on what we're seeing in the marketplace right now. I was very happy to hear you say, let's just go to Thursday instead of weeks down the road, because we just don't know. We're in unprecedented times. We really are. And we have seen the cost of material, particularly steel, go up as much as 30%. And there's steel in everything that we're building right now. There's steel in windows, there's steel in structure, there's steel in concrete. And so there's steel in canopies too. And the guys at Davila can speak
more to that, particularly to kind of gauge or get a temperature of where the market is going. We can try to do that, but who would have predicted what's happened in the last year? It's very, very difficult, and I think for us to do that and look in a crystal ball is very hard to do. So I would just offer this bit of caution. We've got a price. We're very close. We are value engineering some things that will not be drastic to any of the performing arts or natatorium characteristics of the facilities. You know, we're taking some automation out of some of the facilities and manually operating them, things like of this nature which we can work with. And we're not destroying the aesthetics. Believe me, I've fought that battle for a long time to try to keep the aesthetics of the building the way
If I may interject real quickly, you just made a good point right there, and that was one of the things that I noted, because I want you to know that I am going through this with a fine-tooth comb because I want to be informed. And that was one of the things that, you know, going from manual, or from going from electronic to manual, and, you know, those are options that we need to weigh. But again, from you know, it's a lot of information, and you know, at this point, yeah, and I'm sorry I interjected, but I'd like for you to continue. But just know that we are looking, and at the very least, I'm requesting this to be tabled. I'll take the blame for that. I mean, I'd like a little bit more time. I'd also, and again, this is a recommendation that's going to be made, and we can vote on it. And again, I also want our attorney to be able to, you know, I know that I can pick up the phone, and I would hope that Mr. Palacios or you or anybody would be available, but I also want to be able to consult with our legal counsel as well. And again, any way you look at it, in anything we do, you know, when we start, and we're trying to cut costs, and even when it goes to, when we're looking at aesthetics, we're going from some type of material to a lesser quality material. You know, whether we like it or not, it is being affected, and we know that. So I just want to see, and I don't have any doubt that you all are doing your best in trying to get us the best bang for our buck, but I want a couple more days to be able to really go through this. So, but thank you for all you're doing, and please continue.
Well, I was finished, but thank you, Mr. Moreno.
For how long are your bids for? How long are they good for?
These guys speak to.
Honestly, a lot of them have expired at this point, but we have relationships with some contractors that are actually trying to maintain the pricing. But I'm getting calls weekly, daily sometimes, saying, I can't, the copper's going up, our conduit's going up, steel's going up. Steel's been going up this whole time. All materials are going up. And not only that, we're seeing shortages, people not being able to fulfill orders. MBCI, as an example, is a roofing, standing seam metal roof material supplier. They just said all of a sudden on one of our other projects, we cannot fulfill your order due to nationwide shortages. So we're trying to get to where we can get everything bought out and start moving forward as soon as possible. Now, I know for a fact that some of the subcontractors are not gonna hold their pricing, which is why we have some contingency in there to cover. And I'm hoping that we have a line item for escalation as well. And I'm hoping that that'll be enough to cover a lot of those items.
Is there a reason why it wasn't brought to us in June, during our June meeting, if y'all got the bids in May?
We've been working on it this whole time, since the bids came in, and we've been going through and identifying other items that potentially could save money. For example, there's terrazzo flooring in the lobby. It was specified. The bids that came in for that were extremely high. We thought that we could do much better with durable flooring that's gonna, you know, last for years, that you wouldn't, you know, looking at it, you wouldn't see any difference, it's, you know, quality-wise. And so we went through all those items. We went through to the specialty subcontractors and said, okay, what can you offer? You know, there's a simple item like changing the weight of the curtains. Nobody's gonna notice any difference. There's no real reason why we need to go with a 32 ounce versus 24. So we went through and found those cost savings, whatever that could possibly be, and we went, I mean, this is across the board. I'm listing a few items, but it was, you know, in every trade, we went back and tried to find some items. And then we presented them to ROFA and Mike and the team, the design team, and then they either said yes or no, brought it to Dr. Carmen or to Joseph, and they assisted in determining whether we should include that savings or just offer it as an option.
Mrs. Lopez, also to answer your question, I know COVID is the scapegoat for a lot of things, but the delay has a lot to do with what the virus has done to the industry, the construction industry. Truthfully, we had a hard time, these guys had a hard time getting one bid, much less two or three. There's just not been enough people in the marketplace to give good bids, and so we've had to wait for people and be patient to get good bids from people. It's taken some time to do that, and I'm sorry for that inconvenience, but it's just the way the pandemic has affected their industry. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. So I'm gonna make a recommendation for Mr. Weller to let our superintendent know what kind of information you need, so you can look into this project and provide us some guidance. So if you can make a list or contact Dr. Carmen, and as well, Dr. Carmen, if you can provide any of the information that Mr. Weller will need to look into this project, and that way we can get this moving as fast as possible, because I know that you all need us to take an action.
I know you're probably going to ask for the floor, right, Dr. Cruz? But let me ask one more question before that, if I may. In looking at this letter that you sent to Dr. Carmen, basically, our best case scenario would have been to be able to stick to the figures that we're seeing at 50% CD, correct?
Well, those aren't bids. Again.
Okay, but that's a dollar amount that we were looking at originally.
That's before steel went up.
Correct.
That's when we had the
Right.
$2 million change.
I got it.
I just want to clarify that.
All right, and I appreciate that. But then as you went and we were dealing with a price increase and stuff, you wheeled and dealed 4 different times, and basically at this point, your recommendation is the June 30th proposal for both GMP 2 and GMP 3. That's the lowest that we've got right now, and again, time is a major factor.
And the only exception, the only options you really have is, do you want to reduce it anymore? The only way we can do it is by cutting. And if that's not the will of the board, then we're right where we're supposed to be.
Okay.
There's nothing that's going to change on the package matter thing. The only way it can change is if we don't adopt it. If we go out to bid, you won't see those numbers at all. We've been very firm with Davila on honoring the price. Remember, it's an at-risk contract, so they assume the risk. Once we approve, that building's gonna be delivered. The district has no risk in that. They have the risk.
And if approved today or Thursday, these are the numbers.
Those are the numbers, with the exception whether or not the board would consider either leaving the administrative offices on or considering either one of the 3 options we left you.
Okay.
That's really what you have to decide.
Fair enough.
In regards to the contractual, we do have the contracts. We'd be happy to, I have a summary of all the board dates, when the contract was adopted. Matter of fact, I have them by paper. We'll just hand them over right now. We do have digital copies of all the plans, all the specs. We'll be happy to give to each board member. Again, our job is to try to convey to you, and we do recommend, we're here every month. It is the only way to make sure we can convey a lot. We're translating Chinese into English. We need these types of meetings to help you all understand what has been done and why.
I truly appreciate that, Mr. Palacios, and I know Mr. Lopez asked for the floor. Mr. Lopez?
Yes, sir, thank you, appreciate it. Well, Mr. Palacios, I just want to thank all you guys, because I know you guys have done a tremendous job by first of all, taking on this huge responsibility that our community wanted, first and foremost, and then all our stakeholders were involved, all our staff was involved, and, so it's been a huge ordeal. I've seen it from the beginning towards the end, and, we're still here, and we're still going above and beyond, trying to maximize that dollar that we've talked about. I think it's very important to hit on a couple of key notes. I know it's a very, nerve-wracking situation to approve of something, but I think it's very important, Mr. Palacios, to set the precedence of what the prior board did. I think it's very important. Okay, so the school district has minimal risk because, at the end of the day, all these contractors have bonds, they're all bonded, okay? So if we approve this tonight, then Davila, starting tomorrow, as soon as we're done with this meeting, or as soon as it's voted on, they become responsible for that building and everything that goes along with it. So I think it's very important to really hit on that, a little bit more if you can. I mean, I know you've talked about it time and time again, but I think it's very important to realize that every minute that we're not approving of this plan, we're becoming more and more. We're basically jeopardizing this whole situation if we don't move on with it sooner rather than later.
And I can tell you, we recommended construction manager risk for a purpose. These are very specialized buildings. We had checks and balances all the way through, from a design team, from a project management firm, from your construction manager at risk, and then we didn't stop there. We just continued to hammer it, and just because we wanted to make sure that we maximize your dollars, and at the end of the day, we can get to the finish line. What you have before you is that plan with some options. We are not the board members, we're not elected by the people, and we're not your constituency. We want to make sure that we reserve that right to you all. There might be a feel from the board to say, I don't want to jeopardize flex spaces, storage spaces, admin offices. We couldn't make that decision, but the package that you have right now is, and for the record, I need to state that it's minus 1,050 square feet of the administrative offices. If the board elects to preserve those offices, we will have to back in the $168,000 of the credit, which was about $160, and we'll argue that it was a little amount per square foot, but the truth is, as we go, the minute you decide, whether it's today or Thursday, or whatever day you do, hopefully sooner than later, because we're jeopardizing the current bids that we have, is that we go through the transparent process of the buyout contracts with the subcontractors to make sure that those that were having trouble honoring that issues every contract. And at the end of it, we negotiated best and final. Again, every option as we go forward, we don't make the decisions of changes, whether it's on terrazzo, on the type of flooring and some of the other deals. These are things that come to the board every single time. There's a contingency backed in for that. But again, we don't make that decision. The board will elect those decisions. So what you have is what it is.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Palacios. Dr. Cruz?
This should be my last question, sorry. When you say construction manager at risk, is that?
The contractor.
No, I understand. But
Yeah.
is that pending today's date? Like if approved on today's date, these are the prices we're getting? And if approved on Thursday, it could change?
Where it'll change is every day we're getting change notices on a couple. Soft steel, soft woods. There could be a potential change, plus or minus. Obviously, we're seeing on the plus end because of COVID-related issues. We're not seeing the negatives. We wish to see the negatives, but what we did from May 28th to now gave us the positive by making sure that we looked at all these alternatives and found 1.7 million with the work of Davila, with the work of ROFA, to be able to validate all of what we do have and make recommendations. When we talk about manual versus, this thing has every bell and whistle. So we're talking about the acoustical panels on the walls. That's really when you have Broadway shows and all these various different types. They're not going to move daily. They're there when your programming needs it, but rather than mechanical, we believe that manual is it'd be a lot easier. There's really no need to have that. So we were talking about those types of items that really don't affect the building itself, but gives us a great price point to be able to offer back to the district. So we went through, and that's just one of many examples that we went through.
Thank you, Mr. Palacios. And with that said, my last comment would be in looking, just perusing through some of these pages, there are some areas where there may be potential savings yet to be determined. And it could go, like you mentioned, it could go either up or down. We're hope down, but what we're seeing is up. So thank you once again for your presentation.
Yeah, and that was the very reason why we put $975,000 in that line item, to make sure that's our safety cushion, just to make sure that we're not coming back to you saying, but again, it is an at-risk contract. Davila Construction is assuming 100% of that risk based on design and specifications. So once approved, that is when everything starts validating itself on any other potential savings. And God willing, we don't have any other cost escalations, but it's our job to continue to work together to make sure of that. So
thank you to all you gentlemen for your presentation and for you answering our questions. And at this point, colleagues, I'd still like to recommend that we table this a couple more days, just till the Thursday meeting. So I move that we table this until Thursday. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Ms. Lopez. At this point, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor to table this until Thursday's meeting, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed, raise your right hand. Motion carries 4-3. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, moving on to agenda item 6.1, discussion, consideration, and possible action to award bid proposal RFQ 0721 AOREHP, agent of record for employee health products.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Question.
Yes, sir. Question? That's already agenda item, sir. There. Okay, so we're already, so Dr. Carmen? Okay.
Sir.
Okay.
Mr. Moreno, we received, sorry, if I can get my mouse to cooperate. We received bids, and I believe we had presentations last Tuesday for the health insurance agent of record. So really, it's up to the board to discuss and make a recommendation and approve.
All right, board members, any recommendations?
After carefully reading through all the bidders, I thank the bidders that bid for it. I move that we award Trevino Insurance Agent of Record. That's my motion.
Okay, Mr. Altamirano has moved to award Mr. Alberto Bob Trevino, agent of record for employee health products. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Janie Lopez? Discussion at this point, board members, anyone?
Yes, sir,
Need the floor?
I got a
Mr.
question.
Lopez? Sorry about that, my mic is off. Mr. Lopez, you have the floor.
Okay, so I guess since you guys made a motion for Mr. Trevino, what I wanted to know is, what is he gonna bring to the table? I know there was a committee meeting, but now that we're here, what was your, I guess, a determining factor of why you wanted to bring him in now if all these products are already taken out to bid? So what's the purpose of him taking over now? I know he's been in the district before. I know there were some slight concerns back then. So I just don't understand what the purpose is of taking him now if he's not gonna save us any money right now because he can't. So what I wanna know is what's the ramification for that? Thank you.
Anyone want to comment? Okay, I will answer that. I know you're not asking me personally, but with the recommendation that was made by Oscar Medrano and seconded by Janie Lopez, in comparing, I think we had a slew of very well prepared presentations to the board. And as you mentioned, Mr. Lopez, that previously we have had Mr. Bob Trevino serve our school district. And again, whether or not there were problems in the past or not, that I can't answer to because I wasn't here. However, to answer your question as specifically as I can, some of the things that I felt that possibly would put him on the, lean him over the edge as far as awarding him the agent of record is what he contributes back to our community and what he contributes back to our students. Some of the things that I hope you don't mind, Dr. Ariel Cruz, one of the things that she mentioned and kept asking all our presenters at the time were, what do you offer? What do you provide health fairs? Do you do, and I guess we're looking at the wellness aspect, and I think all the presenters had some type of wellness that they would afford us. But again, one of the things that I'm not speaking for anybody but myself, one of the things that I did hear Mr. Trevino was the awarding of scholarships and things that by giving back to the district, and I think that's very important. Now, I do want to go back to another comment that you made previously as far as the current agent of record. I don't recall, and again, I can't answer for him because I was not here at the time, but I don't believe I have seen anywhere, although I have researched, and I do want to be honest, it's been minimal research. I don't recall where the some of the services, and I do think I have, off the top of my head, I believe it's Guardian. I don't believe that the district went out for bids in reference to those insurances as far as cancer and things of the like. So again, to answer your question, my personal opinion is what he can give back to the community, to our students and staff, and the also the availability that he brings forth to the district in reference to being, he owns a company. He doesn't have to branch out necessarily, and his commitment to being available for the district. That's my 2 cents worth.
Okay, sure. I guess since, I've had a little bit more experience here on this board, I've seen the, the whole dynamics of how this whole situation works with, with insurance agents, and I think one of the things that we all need to keep in mind is that, they work for our staff, okay? The board brings them on, and I think it's very important to keep that in mind, and not to disrespect any previous, agents of record, but they've all supported our kids and they've all given scholarships. So, I think that needs to be said. I need to applaud, the agent that we had, or the agent that we have currently until you guys vote them out. So I think it's very important to really, figure out and understand what they've done, for our district, because they've saved us a lot of money. So when people are gonna say they're gonna save us a lot of money, I'm gonna hold them accountable. So you'll be hearing from me. So why? Because that's because we have a self-funded plan. So it's very important that we make sure it doesn't derail right away. So as far as I'm concerned, I think the current agent is doing a phenomenal job. My recommendation would be to the board members here is to split it up. Okay, you talked about voluntary products. You talked about the health. The health is already there. Leave the guy that's already there, the agent that did all the hard work, that did the homework, that's providing a good service to the school district, and you can give, somebody else a voluntary product, like you said, the guardian and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's my recommendation, but, I just want to make sure that, I said my 2 cents. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Mr. Lopez. Thank you.
I think I just wanted to bring something up, because I think that the main thing that changes, this was my first time ever learning about what the insurance agent on record does and things like that. So I think the main thing that I got out of it was that they handle all the claims for our staff. Like any claims that they have when it comes to insurance, they handle that for the staff. And in the middle of a pandemic, it seems unfair to our staff, because none of us have the school district insurance, except for Dr. Carmen, of course. But we're the school board, we have our own insurance with our employers, so none of us are affected by this. It's the staff that's affected, the ones sitting in those chairs. They're the ones that have the insurance agent helping them with whatever claim they're needing to process. And it's unfair to them to have to deal with somebody new in the middle of a pandemic. Who knows what the next 6 months will hold during this pandemic with the Delta variant and things like that. And these people are already taking care of their claims. So it does make sense to keep the health plan the same. Like you said, the voluntary products haven't gone out for bid. I'm not sure if they have. But if they haven't, then that might be something to look at.
What you state, Dr. Cruz, makes sense, but I also want to make it a point that the agent of record was changed in the middle of a pandemic. It was changed in August of 2020, and the pandemic started in spring. So, I understand.
When that agent of record changed, did we get a new, that's when we got Blue Cross Blue Shield.
That is correct.
That's not, and then when Mr. Corona asked one of the insurance agents, I can't remember who, what he would do better for our services, he said, well, if you didn't have Blue Cross Blue Shield, I'd change you to Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Correct.
But since we already have that service.
Right, and it saved us money too. By changing from United, because a lot of the hospitals here weren't taking United. So there was a reason why the change was done. And once again, it's back for the best interest of our staff.
Exactly.
The thing is, what we don't want is disruption at this moment in time. I've been on this board long enough when we first came on that there was disruption and they didn't want it to get moved out. So I think it's very important to keep in mind what's going on. I think it's working flawlessly right now. I mean, I know there's always room for improvement, but during this pandemic, I think it's very, very, unsettling right now to make a move on the health side. The voluntary side's a different story, but that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Anyone else?
I'd like to make a comment. So the important here is the staff. We can all agree on that. Staff is very important, and when you have staff members saying, I don't have enough benefits for cancer to pay for my cancer treatments, when you have staff saying, I can't pay for my surgeries, that's a problem. When you have staff saying, I can't pay for my medical prescriptions, that's a problem. What happens? They become more sick, and that becomes a higher claim for the district as well. So if we can take care of them as much as we can through their benefits, including have the new agent of record do an audit, work together with the person that's handling our insurance in the school district, do an audit. What are the concerns? What are the things that you need changes on? Let me see what prices I can get you for these situations. When you have an agent of record that's willing to work with the school district, then that's the kind of agent that I would want for our staff. because their health is very important. And I've got staff members that say they're not getting their treatments because they cannot afford it, and we cannot, that's not acceptable. So we need an agent of record that is willing to help out our clients, our staff, and work with them, and work with our school district staff as well to make it better for them. With that survey, again, that you all provided to us, it did show that less than 50% of the staff that answered that survey were satisfied. And so we need to give them the best that we can.
Well, Ms. Moreno, if I can, sir. So I guess to Ms. Lopez's point, I think it's very important to understand too the way this whole, because I learned it myself. So just to know the way it works when you have, insurance agents, they want to make sure that the maximum amount of people sign up. That's how they make their money. Okay, so for people to be saying out there that they don't want to, that they don't have or they can't, or the insurance agents will customize a plan to make sure that, every single person or they can get as many people as they can on those voluntary products to get serviced. So that's what their role is, and that's what their job is to do. So for them to, to use that as a caveat, saying that, or an excuse that, they don't do that, they do it, because if their plans are too high or their their voluntary products are too high and the staff's not purchasing them, then we have a problem. Okay, so I've never, since the time I've been here, I've never heard any concerns. We've heard concerns with some claims, but that's through the disruption, through the changing of agents. I've heard that before. So I think sometimes it's very important to understand that. So everything is done in the best interest of our staff. Okay, so I want to make that very clear.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. All right, with that said, there's a motion on the floor, a motion made by Mr. Oscar Medrano, seconded by Janie Lopez. At this point, all those in favor to, yes, you can.
Just for clarification on the motion, when we replaced our agent of record last year, we had the previous agent finish out the insurance year through the end of September, and we started with the new insurance year, and that limited some of the disruption. Is that the intent of this change of agent of record, to start with a new plan year? Just, I don't know if we need to clarify that in the motion or not, Mr. Weller?
Dr. Carmen, I think that at this point, you're the leader in the district, and you can best help us to make that transition as smooth as possible. So we're going to take your recommendation as well. And if you're saying that maybe starting in September, I think that that's a great idea if you think that that would be the best thing.
It gives time to transition, so we go through the plan year, and that way the new agent's ready to start October 1 with the new plan year, if that's the will of the board. Does that need to be mentioned in the motion, sir, or not?
I believe it does need to be mentioned in the motion, just to clarify that. Otherwise, so what you can have is a motion to clarify the motion on the table, and then vote on that, and then that will be sufficient to take the action, if that's what the board wishes to do.
So once again, I don't know if you have your mic on, or I'm getting even harder of hearing, but I didn't hear that. But you mentioned a motion to clarify?
Yes, sir. What you would need to do is just make a motion to clarify or adjust the motion that's on the floor, and then vote on that, and you'll have your action.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to go ahead and clarify the original motion that on the possible action to award the bid proposal RFQ 0721 AOR EHP Agent of Record for Employee Health Products, with the understanding that this new agent of record will begin effective October 1st? Correct? Yes, sir. Okay, so with that said, we all those in favor to
You need a second.
revise the agenda language?
Yes, sir, you need a second to the motion.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. Oscar Medrano? Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries 4-3. So going back to the motion, we now have a motion by Oscar Medrano and seconded by Janie Lopez to award the agent of record for employee health products. Once again, with the understanding that he will begin effective October 1st, 2021. We have a motion that's been seconded. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, all those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-3. Moving on to agenda item 6.2, discussion, consideration, and possible action to award bid proposal RFQ 0721 SA School Attorney for Grievances and DIA Investigations. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir, I believe here we had 3 law firms submit. We had the O'Hanlon Law Firm, Walsh Gallegos Law Firm, and then we had Attorney Baltazar Salazar submit to the board to serve for DIA investigations and grievances.
So I'll make a motion that we approve all 3 for DIA investigations.
I
Okay,
second
there's
that.
a motion on the floor by Mr. Lopez to award the contract to all 3, which we have school attorneys Kevin O'Hanlon, we have Walsh Gallegos, and Baltasar Salazar.
I second
Do
it.
I have a second? We have a second by Dr. Cruz. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3. All those opposed, same sign. Okay, motion fails.
Mr. President, if I may,
Yes, ma'am?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Walsh Gallegos, Trevino, Cayo, and Robinson, PC.
Okay, Ms. Janie Lopez just moved to award the bid proposal for school attorney for grievances and DIA investigations to Walsh Gallegos. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Janie Lopez and Oscar Medrano. Discussion? Okay? Dr. Cruz, the floor is yours.
I really don't see anything wrong with having all 3 lawyers, law offices on with the school district. Technically, we already have Walsh and Gallegos through TASB.
Correct.
So that's just kind of a duplication, and this gives us a little bit more broad on who we pick for certain DIA investigations and things like that. They'd go to board approval, and we would select who we wanted to represent us in each case. And they're paid per diem, or not even per diem, per hour. So there's not really.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Oh, also, sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
In a previous board meeting, somebody had mentioned, I think it was Dr. Carmen that mentioned that it benefits us to have multiple people, multiple lawyers representing us. And I just wanted some clarification on how that would benefit the school district.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Carmen?
Sure. So at least for DIA investigations, in the past, when we had one attorney do every DIA investigation, the attorney who would represent those employees who filed against us came to the conclusion, erroneously, came to the conclusion that that attorney essentially worked for us because they consistently did the work for us and they always found in our favor. So having the option to use different attorneys with the board for those different DIA investigations kind of negates that argument because you're just choosing or rotating through first attorney, second attorney, third attorney. You get an objective review from each of them, and it's not that any one of them owes you anything or is, per se employed by you. So it just gives more of a fair and objective process to the DIA investigations.
Thank you, Dr. Carmen.
Yeah, and then also,
Mr.
I mean,
Lopez?
yes, sir. And in fairness to all 3 of them, I mean, they're all great, great professionals. So, they all do a great job. So that's the reason why, like Dr. Carmen said, in the past, they've kind of frowned upon just going with one DIA attorney or one DIA group. So that's the reason why I recommended all 3. I think O'Hanlon is a great group. I think Walsh Gallegos is a great group. And Baltasar, I mean, they have a lot of experience. So I think by having those guys, all 3 of those guys on our team, I think it'll be great and advantageous to our school district. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
What would be, I guess, Ms. Lopez's reservations to having that? To having those options for the school district?
I don't have an answer as to whether it would be advantageous or not to have 3 different attorneys. My recommendation is to have one attorney, and that's Walsh and Gallegos. She has very good recommendations. I've talked to people from different districts, and I've heard her speak before representing clients, and I feel that she would be someone that can represent us in any grievances that we might have from the district. You all make it sound, in my opinion, like we're gonna have a lot of grievances, and I really hope we don't. And that's what we're trying to prevent from us going into further litigations. Right now, we have just too many lawsuits against the district, and that's what our hope is, to prevent any further lawsuits.
Okay, one of the things that I would also like to mention, just for the record, is that the hiring of a legal firm is a board duty and board responsibility. And right now, we've beat this dead horse for so many times. I can't remember the actual board policy. But we do have a motion on the floor, and I'm going to recall the question. However, before I do so, I do want to mention that at a later time, if we need to, if the board deems necessary, that we go on and hire an additional legal counsel, that we have that option. We can always come back to the board and recommend future engagement with other firms. So at this time, I'd like to recall the question. We do have a motion on the floor by Ms. Lopez and a second by Oscar Medrano to award the bid proposal to Walsh Gallegos. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay, all those opposed? Again, is it 4-3, or Mr. Lopez, did you say yay or? Yes, okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 opposed. Mr. Corona, and you did? Okay, so it's 6-1. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 6.3, discussion, consideration, and possible action of mobile unit agreement between San Benito CISD and the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston for the 2021-2022 school year. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir, and this just didn't make it in time, I think, for the committee meeting. We have used the mobile unit. It's been parked at our high school occasionally over the last few years at least. So this will just be a renewal of that agreement. I don't believe there's any changes to it. I think Mr. Weller had one recommendation regarding insurance that we will hit up with them before we sign this agreement. But it just didn't make it in time for the committee meetings.
Dr. Carmen, can you elaborate a little bit on that discussion as far as what this insurance agreement pertains to? Please, if we can we?
I believe we can.
Can that be done in open session?
I just have to go to the email.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so the recommendation from our legal, or maybe Mr. Weller wants to speak for himself.
Sure.
Did the district ask for the UT Health Science provide a copy of the declaration page of the CGL insurance policy to include us on that coverage? Is that the gist of it, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just an additional layer of protection for the district, if that would be satisfactory. I'm quite sure that UT Health has that form of insurance. It might just be an additional protection to the district to make sure that you have a declaration page. And just, they've already got insurance in there for medical related issues, which I was, noticed that that's already in the agreement, that's already been handled. A CGL type of insurance would cover different kinds of problems potentially. Say you had, a vehicle accident on school property in a parking lot, or some sort of, other accident that's not a medical related issue, and to have that additional insurance would just be in another layer of protection for the district.
So, Mr. Weller, would your recommendation be then that we add to the language of the agenda item as in addition to how it's written, or is that not necessary?
I think that it can be approved as it is, and we can, you can give us a direction to finalize negotiations. You provide direction to the superintendent and legal counsel to finalize any negotiations as possible.
Okay, so at this point, do I have a motion to approve the mobile unit agreement between San Benito CISD and the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston for the 21-22 school year?
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion by Orlando Lopez and a second by Oscar Medrano. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, all those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Agenda item 6.4, discussion and consideration and possible action to approve the resolution to designate officer to work with the county on the adoption of the tax rates. Dr. Carmen.
Yes, sir. And so here we're asking the board to consider this resolution designating the officer to work with the county for the adoption of our tax rates. And as our assistant superintendent for finance and operations, we are asking that Mrs. Pettis be named to be able to work directly with them. It makes sense considering her position. Mrs. Pettis, am I missing anything there?
It does also include the business office accountant.
Which is Monica?
Correct.
What is her last name, Ms. Perez?
Mata.
Okay, so at this point, do I have a motion to approve the resolution to designate officer to work with the county on the adoption of the tax rate?
So moved.
Oscar Medrano, and second, was it Mario? Okay, Oscar Medrano, Mario Silva. We have a motion to approve the resolution to designate officer to work with the county on the adoption of the tax rates. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Next agenda item 6.5, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve purchases over $25,000 for janitorial supplies. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir, Mr. Moreno, we have two options here. We're cognizant of the fact that we have one board member who does work for this company, and of course, conflict of interest, has to abstain from voting. So on the off chance it doesn't pass, we do have a second option here. Our first option, provided to us by our maintenance department, is for Gulf Coast, and this is an estimate for the year, but to open an open PO for the year for $282,000. And should that not pass, option 2 includes various vendors. Certain janitorial supplies would come from CNC, others would come from Ferguson, and I think those are the only two that are over $25,000. Granger's listed there, but it is $17,000. So two options for janitorial supplies for an annual PO to be opened.
Thank you, Dr. Carmen. At this time, do I have a motion to approve purchases over $25,000 for janitorial supplies? And this first motion would be to award the contract to Gulf Coast Paper Company. Okay. Moving on, let's go with a different vendor, I would imagine. Is that correct, Mr. Weller?
Yes.
Okay, so we
Yes.
would go with Dr. Carmen. Again, it's the variety of the rest of them. So would this be Gulf Coast Paper would be out, and it would be up to CC Distributor, Ferguson Facilities, and Granger to be awarded those contracts?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Is that correct? Okay, at this point,
I move.
do I have a motion to approve those three different organizations for janitorial supplies? We have a motion by Ariel Cruz. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I heard you first, though. It was.
Don't
no,
matter.
It was, okay. Ariel Cruz, Rudy Corona. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, so all those in favor was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1 abstention. All those opposed, there was none, so 6-1, motion carries 6-1 to award that contract to the various vendors. Agenda item 6.6, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve purchases over $25,000 for non-food items for Child Nutrition Department. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir. Again, we have two options. Gulf Coast Paper in the amount of $655,315, and Labatt request an open PO in the amount of $575,000. So similar to the previous agenda item, two options for the board to consider.
At this point, and this is something that just came to me off the top of my head before we go into discussion or asking for a motion, Mr. Weller, if previously we amended policy to reduce the spending power, and I don't want to call it the spending power, but to award contracts over $25,000. One of the things that's been eating at me, and I know I saw our food service department, and it's been eating at me because I know that at one point in time, we had a discussion, and food service is a major cost for the district. I mean, we service thousands and thousands of students. So at this point in time, I would like your advice as to how to proceed, whether this might need to be a future agenda item at a future board meeting, which I would assume it would be, but the option to override that $25,000 limit for food service and allow a greater number, so that our food service director doesn't have to be coming to us so frequently with the purchases, again, in the best interest of our children. So, Mr. Weller?
Yes, sir. If the board wanted to add additional flexibility on that subject within the spending authority, the only thing that you would need to do would be very simple. You just adjust that policy to note that that subject matter is not subject to the $25,000 threshold. I think it would be a simple process, and it would just be an adjustment.
In a future meeting?
In a future meeting, yes, sir.
Thank you for that.
Food service only?
For now, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And again, that can be discussed, but that is one of the things one of the areas that I feel that we may need to look at. And if there are other, we can do so as well. It's a work in progress. Okay, so going back to the agenda item, and I didn't mean to sway from that, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve purchases over $25,000 for non-food items for Child Nutrition Department. And at this time, we had, once again, Dr. Carmen, I don't have that information in front of me, but it was Gulf Coast and Labatt, correct? Yes, sir. Okay, so do I have a motion to approve? Okay, Oscar Medrano, do I have a second?
For which vendor?
So we're separating vendors as well?
Correct. We
Okay,
have
so.
two options.
For which vendor, Mr. Medrano? Gulf Coast, okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Oscar Medrano and a second by Janie Lopez to approve purchases over $25,000 for non-food items for Child Nutrition Department and award that to Gulf Coast. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. All those opposed? Okay, motion fails. It's a 3-4, 3 against, and 1 abstention. Okay, going back, do I have a motion to approve the Labatt?
So move.
Okay, Orlando Lopez moves. Do I have a second? Rudy Corona. Okay, so we're going with Labatt. The recommendation to approve Labatt for $25,000 for non-food items for Child Nutrition Department. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. You're going to vote for it? Okay. So we have 4. All those opposed? 1. So do I have 2 abstentions? Ms. Lopez, did you vote?
I had voted.
You had voted yes? Okay,
You
so,
can put me as abstain.
okay. So once again, let me go with the vote. I have Dr. Cruz, I have Mr. Medrano, I've got Mr. Lopez and Mr. Corona, that's 4. And we have, I vote no, so that's 1, and we have 2 abstentions. Motion passes to award the contract to Labatt. Okay, moving forward to agenda item 6.7, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve purchases over $25,000, and that's all I've got on there.
Actually, I'm going to ask Mrs. Pettis to go through this list. This is a rather lengthy list.
Okay.
So we have various vendors, including AIM Media, T&W for bus tires, EAI Education, Ford Ferrari, and I'm pretty sure I messed up that name,
40 Farrier.
Frontline, Hutton Mifflin Harcourt, Math GPS, Mentoring Minds, No Red Inc., Parsons, People's Education Inc., Perry Mechanical, Terra Cooling, Unique Digital, Teachers Curriculum Institute, Discovery Education for Social Studies, Accelerated Learning Inc., Discovery Education, and KLC for surveillance cameras. All of those that I mentioned do have some backup documentation, including quotes, and all of the purchasing information required for the purchase order, if you have any questions.
And the majority of these contracts or these materials have been previously discussed in previous board meetings, correct?
No.
I thought like that. I know, for example, STEM scopes has been discussed.
We discussed that at when we introduced when we talked about the rebound plan. So yes, we've discussed some of these already.
Okay.
Mr.
So,
Lopez?
all right.
Okay.
So at this point, do I have a motion to approve the purchases over $25,000 as presented?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Rudy Corona and a second by Mario Silva. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion, sorry about that. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Lopez?
So on the AIM Media Texas Operating LLC, to me, it looks like this is the Brownsville Herald, actually. It says here, Brownsville Herald, Valley Morning Star. Why are we advertising in other cities instead of putting our news in our local paper, which is in the San Benito News?
Is there a separate PO for them because they're not part of AIM Media?
I'm sorry.
Is there a separate PO for them because they're not part of AIM Media?
I would assume because we do advertise and pay for the San Benito News. Mr. Gonzalez, you want to
Correct.
elaborate?
Everything advertised in the San Benito News is paid directly to the San Benito News. AIM Media covers anything we run in the Brownsville Herald and Valley Morning Star, including all of the special publications, the Reader's Choice magazines, the Inspire Women's magazines, the advertisements that we run for the kids during livestock show season. So AIM Media is only for Brownsville Herald and Valley Morning Star. San Benito News is less. Normally we spend well below $25,000 because our weekly page is less in the San Benito News. But we do have the weekly page and we have been running advertisements.
Any further discussion? Okay, so do I have a motion? No, I already have one. Rudy Corona and Mario Silva to approve to approve purchases over $25,000 as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, all those opposed, same sign. There was none, so motion carries 7-0. Agenda item 6.8, discussion, consideration, and possible action to approve the San Benito CISD Student Code of Conduct for the 2021-2022 school year.
And Ms. Alvarado is just raring to go.
There you go.
No, thank you, Mr. Moreno, members of the board, Dr. Carmen. This is also the model that we use, the TASB model. There was only one change this year from last year, and that is under the return a student to the classroom. Aggravated sexual assault was removed. Again, that is coming directly from TASB. That is the only change we had. This code of conduct will also be provided in Spanish for our parents who only speak Spanish as well.
And for the record, Ms. Alvarado, this code of conduct, this is the 2021-2022 school year is a year that it comes before the board for approval, and it's every other year. Does that still stand, or we don't know depending on?
I get it. We approve it every year. Is what I've always approved code of conduct every year.
On a yearly basis?
That's correct.
Okay.
Even if there's no changes, we still bring it before the board.
Thank you, ma'am, for that clarification. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the San Benito CISD Student Code of Conduct for the 2021-2022 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. I heard Dr. Cruz make the motion. A second over here was Mr. Silva. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 6. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Item 6.9, discussion, consideration, and possible action to purchase desk shields for the 2021-2022 school year. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir. So we were hoping that the pandemic would die down and go away. We wouldn't have to deal with this, but it appears that with this new variant, that we're going to have to deal with it for a little while longer. So what we are bringing to the board are 3 bids here on desk shields that have 3 windows, the front and both sides. Earlier this past school year, we bought some that had just the clear window on the front, and they worked, and our kids, I believe, were safe. But not knowing how long this is going to extend, we're making the recommendation that we buy all new desk shields for our students and that it have the 3 windows on it. And so given that, if you look at the quotes, the first quote there is $12.75 per unit. but the size is fairly small, 13-inch by 22 by 13. The second bid, for the same amount, $12.75, they are 24 inches tall, 22 inches wide, 13 inches deep. And then if you look at the final one, they're more expensive, 14.25, but they're approximately the same size. But there's also $6,500 worth of shipping on that last one. So the recommendation to the board is that they would consider the second bid, who is High-End Advertising out of Mission, for the 10,500 desk shields at $12.75 a piece. And we would also ask that you include, which on that quote, but the base is there. They will adhere to the desk. They won't slide around or fall off. They're 67 cents a piece, so another $28,140. No shipping charge, so a total of $162,015.
Thank you, Dr. Carmen. So at this time, do I have a motion to approve the purchase of desk shields for the 2021-2022 school year from High-End Advertising as recommended by Dr. Carmen?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion by Mario Silva and a second by Orlando Lopez. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries 6-0. Item 6.10, discussion, consideration, and possible negotiation on all matters related to the Bickerstaff Heath Delgado Acosta LLP contract. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir. I know this has been an ongoing discussion with the board about whether you want a meeting to negotiate or the board themselves to negotiate. So Mr. Lopez asked to put this back onto the agenda. Before you all start your discussion, though, I will point out that Mr. Weller did send a letter dated yesterday indicating that their firm will charge the $250. I know that's one of the points of contention, not $275, because essentially what they're performing for our school district is all school-related issues. If there's a separate issue, a construction issue, that type of thing, that would be a specialty, I think the understanding is that would have to come in front of the board. Mr. Weller, do I have that understanding correctly?
Yes, sir. You know, there are certain types of work that we do as a firm that is very specialized and very particularized in nature. We don't just work as a general counsel. We do a lot of outside work for in-house counsel on a variety of subjects. And so a lot of what we do is technical, and it's truly not schoolwork. And it's normal for attorneys to charge different rates for specialized work. In this case, it's been a question, and in the interest of just resolving any questions and avoiding any gray areas, you know, what I said was we'll just forego any charges at that rate. The circumstances where we would have used a rate like that, I think would have been rare anyway. Our practice in a circumstance like that is to say, you know, if we're asked to do that kind of work by the client, we would go to the client and we'd say, look, you know, that's kind of a horse of a different color a little bit, and we would make them aware. So we have a lot of, you know, practical, what we feel like are good faith steps that we would take before ever charging anything like that. We have not charged 1 minute of that rate to San Benito ISD, and, you know, since it's been an issue, I'd rather just, you know, push it to the side and move past it. So we're not going to charge at that rate.
Okay, Mr. Ronaldo, I appreciate that, the clarification, and
Sure.
It's not really an issue, I mean, Mr. Willard. It's just, it's true transparency, that's all it is. You know, so we want to know what we're getting, we want to know what we're paying for. Yes, and I did ask for your first bill, and Dr. Carmen, can you clarify how much that bill was? And I wanted to see compared to our previous legal for the past 8 years, so I wanted to see exactly where we're at. And that's the only reason why we're doing it. We talk about transparency all the time, we talk about saving money, and so on and so forth, and you know, and so that's the reason why I brought this up. So I'm not too sure, I'm not even going to guess exactly what the bill amount was. You have that on
Roughly 18,000 something?
$18,950, and anticipating the question would be asked, what did our previous attorney charge? I did not look at all 8 years, I apologize for that. 2021, for the 11 months, the average was $11,916. During the 2019-2020, I won't say 1920 because I get it, the average monthly expenditure was $11,566.
So that's the reason why, Mr. Woodard, it was just a comparison, you know, it's like anything else, you know?
Sure.
So I just wanted to make sure that we're on the same page as far as looking out for the best interest of our school district as well as our taxpayer dollars.
Yes, sir, and that's a fair question, I understand it. What I would say is that during a period where we're ramping up, trying to familiarize ourselves with your process and your internal structures and the district's culture, it's pretty common to have a little bit more time spent. We have, you know, the time that we spend is gonna be directly driven by the amount of matters that the district needs to have reviewed, the amount of questions that we receive, the amount of contracts we review. In this case, we've had some things pop up in the last 30 to 60 days. There have been unfortunately, some grievances. There was some work for us to do on the front end to evaluate the lawsuits, and we went through a discussion with your TASB panel counsel in every single case to make sure, and I wrote Dr. Carmen an email, I believe the day after we were hired, and I said, here are the things that I would like to do to make sure that there is nothing lost in the transition. And that was my focus, to make sure that the district was completely taken care of during the transition. I think we've done that, and there have been a number of instances where I have spent time doing things and not charged for it. I think there were some committee meetings we attended that we didn't charge for. One of the things I like to do for clients is come in and look at their policies, because your local policies are your local policies. They're not set like the TASB legal policies, okay? I didn't charge for the time to do that. I didn't charge for the time to familiarize myself with your board operating procedures, your committee structures. And part of that was because that is intentional, very intentional on my part, to try to show you our good faith and to show you that we're here to respond to your concerns.
Yes, sir. Well, it would be nice, Mr. Willard, if you're doing that, you know, it would be nice for you to let the whole board know. Okay, we are a board of 7. You know, we're assuming that our board meetings are lasting 4 to 4 hours and our committee meetings are lasting 4 hours. So, you know, the bill's just gonna rack up. I know I made a sarcastic remark the other day. You know, when Mr. Moreno asked me, he says, you know, it's kind of insulting for you to say and bring up an hourly rate when he hasn't even charged us. I said, well, I said, you know, nobody works for free. Okay, so that's exactly my point. So, you know, once again, through transparency, it would be nice if you would let the whole board know. If you're doing, you know, pro bono work, or you're doing stuff for the board and not charge us, it would be nice for us to know that, sir.
I'll be happy to let the whole board know. And I don't believe that I told any board member that, by the way. It was just in the bill. The only way that was denoted was there was a time entry, there was a description of the amount of time, and then there's a bracket that I put on there that says no charge. And I do that so that the client can see that, you know, we're being thoughtful about that topic.
Okay,
and
sir.
that it's important to us.
I appreciate the clarity.
I did have a question on the, well, first of all, just one simple question and then a kind of more complicated question. The first charge on 5/18, we hadn't hired you yet. It hadn't been voted on. So I was just wondering why somebody else in your office was working for us.
I think we were looking at issues literally as I was driving home.
Okay. And then, yeah, right now that you were mentioning the work that you kind of do but don't charge us for, I would kind of like to see that reflected in the invoice. That way we kind of know how many hours more or less you are actually putting into the school district.
How many hours we're putting in?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for each time entry, there'll be a description of the time, there'll be an amount of time spent, and then there'll be a total at the bottom. Was there another summary that you'd like to see?
Well, you said that you didn't charge us for certain things, and I'd like that reflected in the invoice.
It would be reflected next to an individual entry.
But it's not currently, correct?
Pardon me?
It's not currently reflected?
It is. There are some things on that statement where he clearly delineates no charge. It's a rather lengthy statement, but there are a couple instances where I recall, I don't have it in front of me at this point, but I do recall that he did put in parentheses, I believe, no charge. Is that correct, Dr. Carmen? Did you see that as well?
And I'm opening it right now just to make sure. I noticed where it said no charge on, I think, the review of policies. I'm looking now on page.
Oh, within the description.
Right, so on page 3 of 10, for example, date 5/21/2021, there's a description of services. To the right, there are 6.5 hours. Inside of the actual description, inside of parentheses, it states no charge for review and evaluation of board operating procedures, procurement matters, and other essential functions, no charge. So I think we were charged, if I'm reading that correctly, Mr. Weller, for 6.5 hours. Am I understanding your question, Dr. Cruz? You would also like to know, well, how many of those hours were given pro bono, is that?
Correct.
Does that make sense?
I'd be happy to look at that, and you know, one of the things that about me is, and I apologize for the length of the bill. I come from a background where, with firms where we describe our time in a lot of particularity, right? So I think that adds to the client's confidence to be able to see what we're doing, instead of a 5-word time entry that says work on X. You know what I mean? That's not very descriptive. That's not very, you know, that doesn't give you much of an idea of what we're doing. So my entries are lengthy, you know, because I'm trying to show exactly what we're doing. And that's just the way that I was taught.
And I'd like to also mention, and I commend you for familiarizing yourself with our local policies, Mr. Weller. And just to my colleagues here on the board, I foresee that the more familiar Mr. Weller gets with our policies and procedures, our local policies and procedures, that hopefully as we go along through the course of the next year or two, that you know, that the time spent on familiarizing yourself with these policies aren't going to be reflected on these bills, and hopefully we will see less of an amount. So, but again, and again, this is for transparency purposes. So, in going back to the agenda item, the way it's written, I don't see that it's necessarily an action item. However, I do want to mention, and if I may, that it has been clarified for all 7 board members that unless otherwise provided the information by Mr. Weller, that the basically base rate will be $250. Is that correct, Mr. Weller?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions?
I'd like to make some comments here.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that Mr. Lopez said that for transparency purposes that he wants us to go ahead and make these changes. However, on 6/7/21, I did ask how many hours did Flores and Torres bill for 2019, 2020, 2020, and 21 school years, and I never received an answer on that. I did receive how much was paid to them in 2020, 21. They were paid $131,000. In 2019, 2020, they were paid $138,800. When we were presented with information, we were simply given an invoice, and it didn't show what they were billing for. It was just showing the amount that they were billed for and how much they charged for certain time periods. However, in those bills that we were given, there were at least 4 months missing for those time periods. So, yes, we're being charged $18,000 for these months that Mr. Weller has worked. However, again, we do have several court cases going on right now, so that's taking a lot of time for him to invest in. And just to give you all another example here, we had Thomas Rayfield. He was charging $250 an hour. However, there was a retainer fee of $2,500 and was paid out $9,681. I don't know how long of a time period that was for. O'Hanlon was paid $2,800, and then another $4,000. Rorig, Oliveira, and Fisher, they had, again, $250 an hour with a retainer fee of $2,500, and they were paid in just a couple of months, or maybe even 1 month. I don't remember exactly, but they were paid $8,000. Wash, Gallegos, Trevino, $255 an hour, and retainer fee $1,000. Total paid $18,000 at one point. So, Mr. Weller, do you charge us a retainer fee?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And so I wanted to mention some of these fees that were on there were because we have litigation going on. So it's not like it's something extreme. Maybe it would be a lot less if we didn't have these court cases going on. However, Mr. Weller's Bickerstaff is a governmental agency, and so governmental agencies, these are normal fees for governmental agencies as well. We had discussed this, and it was given to the board members. All the board members that are here received his contract with the original fees, and I believe that they should have discussed that at that point when we brought it up, and it's just like beating a dead horse overs and overs. And, you know, it's unfair to our school district for us to keep bringing this up and wasting time and wasting taxpayer money on talking about this issue again and again.
Thank you, Ms. Lopez, for your comment. And I guess I want to go back to the understanding once again. And I'm going to call it, for lack of better words, and you're absolutely correct, the contract was presented to all 7 board members. However, at this point in time and with what's being discussed today, I want to call it a in good faith that Bickerstaff is willing to forgo those specialty fees. And at this point, that is correct. You already mentioned it was Mr. Weller.
Yes,
So basically, this is not an agenda item. So we're all on the same page, all 7 of us. And at this point, if there are no further questions, we're ready to move on to the next agenda item.
No further questions. I want to thank you, sir.
Thank
so much
you.
for your-
Thank you.
for
I'm
your-
happy
for
to
your
answer your
clarification.
questions.
Yes, sir.
Okay, moving on to item 6.11, discussion, consideration, and possible action for invitation of RFQ firms to conduct professional services related to forensic auditing and investigation. Okay, Dr. Corman, do you want me to take that one, or?
Yes, sir, this is your item.
Okay, I don't have a lot of answers for our board at this time, but at this point, the only thing I can offer is there are concerns that have been brought up to me specifically, and I'm going to go out on a limb. Right now, the only thing that this agenda item reflects is going out for bids. You know, I don't think it is fair to any department or fair to any, you know, again, these are general concerns that I feel that need to be addressed, and at this point, I also feel that I don't have the expertise to say that I can pinpoint any necessary, you know, I don't have, in all transparency, I don't want to make that public at this point. I just feel that there are some concerns there, and the only thing that this entails is going out for RFQs for a forensic audit or investigation, and then pending the RFQs coming in, then we can consider as a board whether or not we need to move forward with it. Once we present the scope, or once we present, no, let me correct that. Once we present the items of concern to the organization and have them determine a scope. So basically, that's all I have. At this time, I really don't think it's fair, once again, to any particular department or any, but there are concerns that have come in. And I want to mention the focus on transparency, that, you know, in November, there was a change on the board. And then once again, in May, the changes, you know, the constituents made the decision to put the board members that are here at this given time. And so we owe it to our constituents, we owe it to our employees, we owe it to the district to look into areas of concern. So once again, just to clarify that this is simply an RFQ to go out for bids.
Mr. Moreno, if I may?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a motion to go ahead and go out for RFQs to conduct professional services related to forensic auditing and investigation.
Okay, Ms. Lopez has made a motion to go out for RFQs for professional services related to forensic auditing and investigation. Do I have a second?
Second.
I got a question.
Okay, Mario Silva, discussion. It's open for discussion. Mr. Lopez, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. So can you, just for full transparency, once again, can you specify what a just for everybody here, or just so everybody knows and has a clear understanding what a forensic audit is? Can you explain that, Mr. Moreno?
Ms. Lopez, you had something that you were working on? I didn't think it would be necessary, but. And once again, I will give you what I know as far as my limited expertise, because I'm by no means an expert. some of the concerns would be, for example, it was mentioned earlier that at one point in time, and may have been in your tenure on the board, and nothing to negate what you've done on the board, but we did have an internal auditor that worked and reported to the board. And evidently, the board, and again, no disrespect to the former board, the board, I guess, opted for no longer needing an internal auditor to report to the board. And so that's one of the things that we, if there's a concern there, and again, not that there is, I want to make it clear to Ms. Perez over there, at this point, I don't think it's fair to state any specific department, but there are questions and concerns that I would like answers to the board, not necessarily to the school district administration. And again, one thing that you mentioned, Mr. Lopez, that we're a team of 7, these reports need to be going not to me necessarily, it needs to be coming to the board. So once again, I'm gonna turn it over to Ms. Janey, but before that, the motion has been made, but if we do decide in a future meeting to go with the bid process, to make it clear what these concerns are, maybe at first possibly via closed session, but if not, if it need be for transparency to our public, these concerns have come to us by some of our constituents, so make them public and have, once again, the organization that we choose to tell us, this is a scope that we're going to go with, and we will help you determine what you need to know. But Ms. Lopez, if you would.
So I'll just give you a little bit of what I understand, but Mr. Weller, if you can chime in, if you have more information on what, and one of these audits is, if I don't provide enough information. But basically, if you look at the Texas Association of School Business Officials, that's TASBO, they're the ones that oversee school district finances, and just recently we approved for us to get some trainings from them for the business office and so forth. But basically what it says here is that you're looking at records. Do we have any weaknesses in our control records and the way we're managing the funds? Are there any changes that need to be made? How is the district handling anything that has to do with our funds? Do we need to make some changes? Do we have weaknesses? That's what I'm understanding. I don't know, Mr. Weller, if you need to add anything else or would like to add anything else?
My understanding of it, they're professional services. I believe these firms, they have kind of a multidisciplinary approach. They have different people that look at different subjects, and they evaluate a whole variety of different topics. A lot of it is, related to internal controls, organizational topics, things of that nature. That's my understanding of it.
So Mr. Weller, can you provide everybody with an example of why you would want an external auditor, or what would prompt you to, a forensic auditor?
In my experience?
Yes, in your experience,
Okay.
please.
Well, you see, information about different districts around the state that have done things like this, and some of them do it because, for the reasons that I just mentioned, some of them do it to make sure that their process is sufficient and protects the district's funds. Others are, and it spans the waterfront, right? Others are more focused on, more extreme issues. So some of the things these firms look at, my understanding is it's organizational and policy-making, control-oriented. Others are, more significant concerns.
I don't know if I'm misinterpreting Mr. Lopez's question, but when do they come into play? When do districts choose to do a forensic audit?
When? I don't know. I guess you'd have to ask those trustees in those circumstances where they've done one. I can tell you what I've, observed districts do, and they're the things that I just mentioned.
So I heard finance right now when Ms. Lopez was reading from her phone. So since we're a rated A school district financially, of course. My question-
Correction, sir. Are we a B or an A, Ms. Perez?
We're in a B. First financial or first integrity is a B, correct?
We are acceptable.
A B.
Which is a B, not an A.
On the first report, but that's a general overview of ratios. It's a B, but it's not a,
No, it's not bad, but it's a B. It's not an A. It's not a, it's, correct?
that's not the official rating of the school based
So-
off of the finances.
Okay, so give us a top rating,
The top rating is an A superior.
okay?
Thank you.
And we are?
We're not the superior, we're acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
Which is a B,
Okay,
correct?
so it doesn't matter. So A or B, we're still good, okay? So at the end of the day, sir, that's my whole point. So my whole point in asking you this question was based on this whole forensic, audit situation. So the thing is, would a school, require a forensic audit when you're a B or an A, school district that doesn't have any financial issues?
I don't know that there's a way to directly answer that because I suppose entities do those things, request investigations for a variety of different reasons. I really wouldn't know specifically. And again, I wasn't commenting on, if I mentioned the word finance, I didn't, I wasn't, I was speaking in generalities a moment ago, which is what I understood your question was, is what do other districts do? I'm not talking about San Benito ISD. Okay. I want to make that clear.
All right, I'd like to go ahead and recall the question then. At this time, we have a motion on the floor by Janie Lopez and a second by Mario Silva.
I still have discussion. Okay, so what does a forensic audit do differently than an external audit? And why, and what's the price point?
An external auditor, from my understanding, is going to look strictly at our finances, and a forensic audit may look at different areas. And by that, you can talk about you can talk about HR, you can talk, there could be some concerns as far as finances, there could be, there's a slew of different concerns.
Because when we had the RFQs for the external auditors, there was a portion where it asked, like, they'll go into specific sections if we ask them to. Is that something that they do? Like, you say there's these concerns, so rather than spend extra money, we're already having an external audit. Can the external auditor look at these concerns?
I don't have the answer for that, and once again, I don't want to, I just want to make it clear that right now, all it is an RFQ request for bids. We're not making a decision on whether we are or we're not going to go with a forensic audit, and more information may be forthcoming, but right now, as I mentioned, as board president, I don't think that it's fair or it's appropriate to go into detail. At this time, it's just an RFQ bid, and the motion has been made and seconded.
Have any school districts that you've ever worked for gone into a forensic audit?
I believe that's irrelevant.
I just want.
I don't have an answer for you for that either.
Who would I be? Does anybody know of a school district that has recently gone through a forensic audit so I can ask them what they
Sure,
did?
there are many. I can refer to you as far as some that I've read about. There's been, I believe, Westaco ISD was the most recent that I've been looking at. I believe there was another one done possibly in Donna. I'm not sure, but Progreso was another one. So yeah, there are different scopes and different needs depending on the district. Okay, so once again, I'd like to recall the question, and there's a motion made by Janie Lopez and a second by Mario Silva. So all those in favor of going out for bids and actually asking for RFQs to conduct professional services related to forensic auditing and an investigation, raise your right hand, please. Okay, all those opposed? Okay, motion carries 4-3. Okay, moving on to the next agenda item, closed session. In accordance with Texas Government Code Open Meetings Act, the board may move into closed session for the following reasons. Section 551.071, for the purpose of a private consultation with the board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized by law. Section 551.074, for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. Section 551.076, to consider the deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices. And with that said, we go to closed session at exactly 8:37. Okay, I call this meeting back to order, back to regular session at exactly 10:58. 10:58, sir. All right, at this time,
Mr. Moreno, I'd like to make a motion.
okay,
I'd like to make a motion to rescind item number 6.1 on the insurance.
okay, the discussion, consideration, and possible action to award the bid proposal, agent of record for employee health products. So we have a motion on the floor to rescind the decision on 6.1. Do I have a second?
Second.
That's the agent of record. Okay, all right. Any discussion at this point?
By changing the agent of record and approving it till October, that's gonna cause a hardship for our employees because by October, employees will have already selected the benefits for themselves, and so that would cause a problem. We're trying to save them money, so we're trying to see if, with the new agent of record, if they can provide different services, different costs to the employees, and so that's why I'm asking to rescind this.
Okay, so basically what we're saying is we're going to give this new agent of record the opportunity to go out, for bids as well, or for us to, how do we change, like, is that what it is?
No, I
We
think
would
it's,
need to make a second motion to move to change it to as soon as possible.
If I may,
Please,
I
Mr.
don't
Weller.
mean to interrupt. If it's something that you did earlier in the same meeting, I believe the correct terminology is a motion to reconsider.
Reconsider?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So,
We have a motion to reconsider the decision on the agent of record. Motion was made by Janie Lopez and seconded by Oscar Medrano. And so, at this point, we can go back and discuss this. Right now, let's just reconsider. So, all those in favor, raise your right hand. 4. All those opposed? 3. Okay. Motion carries.
now I want to make a motion to move to change our agent of record to start as soon as possible.
Okay, and with that, can I turn it over to Mr. Weller as well? Can you help out with that as far as the current insurances that are in place with the district right now? Is there any opportunity for this? I mean, we're not changing Blue Cross Blue Shield, okay, but and anybody else can comment as well, but that they can come in and perhaps go with a different cancer plan or make those type of recommendations. Is that what could possibly follow?
I would have to defer to the insurance agent on a question like that. Those are the negotiations that would have to happen between the agent and whomever's providing the
Okay,
insurance.
Dr. Carmen, can you elaborate on any of that, on that question as far as, and again, let me make it be, I mean, I'm just gonna make it very specific. Right now, for example, the cancer plan is through Gateway, and this is just an example, or Guardian. Okay, say, the agent of record comes in and says, proposes to the staff, says we have this other cancer insurance that can save you all money and provide you more benefits and a better plan. Is that feasible? Is that actually what can occur?
So it's possible on your voluntary products, but we know we're not changing Blue Cross Blue
No, we're not.
Shield. So let me just throw this out there. Why wouldn't we consider the new agent of record starting with health, effective with the new year, October 1, and starting with voluntary products, effective immediately?
I think that would make sense, because I don't think at this point, and even in all our minds, there's not gonna be any change with Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's gonna continue. So it's the voluntary products that we're talking about.
And you don't want open enrollment to go poorly. So if you have the agent of record we currently have, they have all the information on our employees, they have all the information from Blue Cross Blue Shield, open enrollment will run smoothly, and then by the time the new plan year starts for health, the new agent of record takes it over. Voluntary products, I think that would be more manageable, and yes, they could get those out for bid for cancer, for whatever else. Yes, they would have time to do that, I believe.
Okay. So then,
Good luck with that motion.
thank you. That's, that was my next question. Language? No. So basically, we would need a motion to, hold on, let me go.
My motion was to start as soon as possible by August 1st.
Right, but we still need to mention that we are still recommending, or you are still recommending, you're making a motion to continue to award the bid proposal of the agent of record to Bob Trevino, and to continue as is with Blue Cross Blue Shield. However, but in addition to that, we need to amend that to open up the bid, I don't know, the bids for other voluntary products.
Yeah, the agent of record can do the bids for voluntary products, since the district doesn't fund those. We only have to do the bids for health insurance. So you could make a motion to approve Bob Trevino effective as the agent of record for voluntary products, effective July 21 or whatever date you want to choose, that's tomorrow, and for health insurance effective with the new plan year October 1.
I think what Dr. Carmen just said, beginning with the words motion to amend the prior motion adopted, and do the following.
Again,
So
sir.
you have a passed motion, a motion right now that's already been passed. You have to amend that.
Okay.
So you've agreed to reconsider, now you need to amend what was adopted before under the terms that Dr. Carmen just listed.
Okay, so that's what, so we're going to amend the agenda item 6.1. Okay, it's all, the floor is yours, Ms. Lopez.
Okay, so I make a motion to amend, but hold on, because earlier I just trusted that, hey, it wasn't gonna be an issue for employees, right? So I made the recommendation for us to start until October. And so how do we know that it's okay to just change the additional benefits and not the health?
Because we're not, the health insurance, and I'm going out on a limb, the health insurance is not a question. The health insurance is already in place. It's a done deal where they're going to get Blue Cross Blue Shield. They're gonna continue, everyone in the district is gonna continue. The only other products that are going to be negotiated or discussed at a later time would be any voluntary products that again, cancer, heart attack, whatever other. Right, that's above and beyond. The bottom line, the health insurance is Blue Cross Blue Shield.
And it's already been bid out till October the 1st. So there's no.
And Bob Trevino also mentioned himself, he's gonna keep Blue Cross Blue Shield.
He won't take over till October 1st
Right,
anyway.
they're keeping Blue Cross Blue Shield, and you're saying it was already approved until October 1st, so then October
It's 1 year.
1st it changes.
No, it doesn't change.
It doesn't change.
It continues
No,
to be
the
Blue Cross.
benefits under Blue Cross Blue Shield can be negotiated.
No, you can't.
Those benefits are not negotiated.
Until
That
October.
can,
Right.
It's only the vision,
Voluntary.
the accessories voluntary.
So you won't cause disruption. The best thing to do is exactly what's recommended. Bob can take over the health after October 1st. You respect the whole year that the whole insurance plan was bidded out for. And then you want to start working on the voluntary products, you can work on the voluntary products.
ASAP, as soon as possible.
Correct. He can start assessing it.
So again, we recommend that we're going to amend the agenda item and say that we recommend that Bob Trevino be the agent of record for Blue Cross Blue Shield effective October 1st, and also be the agent of record for voluntary products effective immediately. So if you'd like, I can go ahead and make the motion, or I'd go ahead and make the motion. And does that make, are you clear on that though? I don't want you to go home with a question. I mean, do you understand that Blue Cross Blue Shield stands? That's not gonna change. That's everybody's health insurance. It's till October 1st, and it's gonna continue after that as well for next year. That's what we're offering the employees, Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Go
For
ahead
health.
and make the motion.
See? Okay, so I move that we accept the recommendation for Bob Trevino to be the agent of record for Blue Cross Blue Shield, and also to amend that item that we recommend Bob Trevino to be the agent of record for voluntary products effective immediately. Do I have a second? Okay, Mario Silva seconds. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. All those opposed, same sign. 1, 2, 3. Motion carries. Okay, moving on. Agenda item 7.1, employment, resignations, and retirements. Dr. Corman.
Yes, sir. I would recommend to the board that they approve the employment, resignations, and retirements as discussed in executive session.
Do I have a motion? Oscar Medrano, do I have a second?
Second.
I heard Rudy Corona, you were the loudest. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, motion carries 7-0. Item 7.2, discussion and consideration to reemploy probationary contract employees to include teachers, librarians, counselors, and nurses for the 21-22 school year. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir. I would recommend to the board they reemploy probationary contract employees to include teachers, librarians, counselors, and nurses for the 2021-2022 school year as discussed in executive session.
I need a motion.
So move.
Okay, so we have Orlando Lopez and Mario Silva. All those, we have a motion by Orlando Lopez and a second by Mario Silva. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0. Rudy, your hand was up, right? Motion carries. 7.3, consideration of withdrawal and/or rescission of resignations of contract employees. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir, Mr. Moreno. I would recommend to the board that they approve the withdrawal and/or rescission of the resignation of the contract employee as discussed in executive session.
Okay, do I have a motion? Second. Yeah, y'all are mumbling. Orlando Lopez and second by Rudy Corona. We're gonna go with that, okay? All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0, motion carries. There you go. 7.4, discussion and consideration of employment of technology director. Dr. Carmen?
Mr. Moreno, I'd recommend to the board that they approve the employment of our new technology director, Mr. Renan Ramirez.
So moved. Ramiro Moreno. Do I have a second? Second. There you go, Rudy. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, 7-0, motion carries. Action item 7.5, discussion and consideration of San Benito CISD Police Department personnel. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir. I recommend to the board that you approve the San Benito CISD Police Department Personnel Plan as discussed in executive session.
So move.
Second. Orlando, and we're gonna give this to Medrano. Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0, motion carries. Lastly, 7.6, consideration, discussion, and possible action regarding litigation involving San Benito CISD. Dr. Carmen?
Yes, sir. I would recommend to the Board of Trustees that they approve the action regarding the litigation involving San Benito CISD as discussed in executive session.
Oscar Medrano, do I have a second? Mario Silva? All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7-0, motion carries. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Orlando Lopez. Rudy Corona. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries. Good night. Thank you, everybody.